All right. Here we go, back again on the other side of the coin. All right, welcome back to the other side of the coin, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to be a unbelievable upcoming hour and a half, 2 hours. I don't even know. All I can say is grab yourself some popcorn, get some drinks ready, sit back, relax, comment if you think in particular situation that you want to comment in, engage, interact. This is not just going to be a therapy session, but it's also going to be a bit of a punditry session, as Ryan was saying. You know, this is going to be not carefree tactics, but carefree punditry. Today we've got bad boy Johnathan back again after a while. Really good to see Johnathan again. Before we say a shout out to all the people that are live, Johnathan, my man, how you doing?
As I said before we started, deflated after last night's performance, just the inevitability of that goal going in. Chances, we'll talk about it a little bit before we kind of go on to the assessment, but there was moments in the game where, yes, we were unlucky with refereeing decisions, but if you can't put a Brighton team away at home, get 2-3 goals, which is clearly the difference between us, Liverpool and City, then, you know, Brighton probably deserved the point, or they did deserve the point. So we probably got...
But I thought they deserved the win. I really thought they deserved the win.
If any team was to win, me and Tam were saying it yesterday. Disappointed the where we are in our season. Yes, one defeat in 19, 20, whatever it is, but 20 games. But yeah, it's not the best situation right now. But glad to be back on.
No, it's going to be good. It's going to be good, Johnathan. We're going to talk about a lot of deep conversations, and we're going to be very honest. We're going to try and put Chelsea in front of anyone, ladies and gentlemen. No agendas, no bias, no nothing. Chelsea forefront, and then everything else comes through. Carefree tactics. Ryan, my boy, how you doing?
I mean, I'm good. Given what Johnathan said, it's been tough being a Chelsea fan, but I think today I'm excited to be on because I always keep it tactical when I come on this channel. I don't say too much my opinions about players. I keep that for private with my friends and this and that. But today you're gonna get a different side of me, other side of me. And I'm really gonna dive into these players and my personal opinions on them, whether it be right or wrong. And this is the first time you're gonna see me get really critical on them because I think it's time to be. And despite the difficulties they've went through, and I can empathize with that, it's time to be honest with ourselves because this isn't a period for some of these players. It's been a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years for some of these players.
Correct.
So it's going to be really fun. I just want to thank everybody for commenting since like 35 minutes ago. I mean, even though I might call out some of these comments and we mightn't get along for an hour or two, just everybody here cares about Chelsea, and it's really cool to see how much support we have so far. So, yeah, excited.
No, 100%. As Ryan said, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be an honest conversation, and I want each and every one of you guys to provide your opinion and be honest about it. Don't be biased. Don't have this agenda. Don't have your favorite players in your mind. Think about Chelsea first. So, and as S. Roy is saying, I don't know why Tuchel is immune from criticism. He's not. And we're going to talk about it. And this is exactly what we're going to start talking about. First of all, nearly 50 of you guys are live. Smash the like button, number one. The likes are the biggest contributor for the growth of this channel. So honestly, you guys don't understand how imperative it is to get those likes. Smash the like button. We're going to try and aim for more than 100 likes today as more people come through. And we're going to try and, display as many comments as I can. The good comments, I'm going to try and bring it out. And we're going to try and create a conversation out of it. So smash the like button. If you're here for the first time, subscribe. Check the boys and their socials in the description. Follow them on Twitter. Please go and follow them on Twitter. I truly ask that of you guys. Okay, let's start with the hot topic off the back of that particular dropping points. From what I gathered, boys, in the live chat was, Thomas Tuchel needs to change the system. Thomas Tuchel's in the fault. As S. Roy is saying, there is a certain group, I probably wouldn't say majority, but there is a group that just doesn't seem to like what Thomas Tuchel's doing. Before I give my opinion, I want to hear from you boys. I'll start with Johnathan. Johnathan, you've now seen Thomas Tuchel for almost 12 months. almost 12 months. It hasn't been 12 months. I believe he was appointed January 26th. He's given us obviously a Champions League, somehow managed the top four. This season, compared to last season, where we are, is in a very good season, albeit not where we desire to be in terms of a title chase. But I want to hear from you, Jonathan. Honest opinion about the system. Are you upset? Are you okay? Are you okay with the chances we create? What's your thoughts?
First of all, I was screaming for Kante to come on from about half time. I was sitting with Taron, and half time people are saying, we need to maybe bring Havertz on or Barkley. But Brighton were controlling the midfield. They were controlling the game, especially in the second half, the first 10, 15 minutes after they finished the last 20, 25 minutes of the first half really well. And I thought we need to make a tactical change. Is he going to go three-man midfield, bring Kante on because he's going to have the energy, he'll just add an extra presence. He's also going to push us forward. And when he came on, he made a big difference. And I was surprised that the Tuchel made that tactical change. We went kind of Mount and Lukaku up front. But everyone else is screaming for other players. And Taron's going, oh, actually, I think you might be right, Jonathan. And when he came on, I thought we should hopefully see this game out. But I was still surprised because we have been quite rigid with the system. But I think this system, if we're honest about it, is set up for two marauding wing-backs, Chilwell and James, who fit the description, can defend, but also can attack. And they're so important to push us forward because we almost play with three defenders and then you've got sort of a four-man midfield and a three-man attack. So when you have seven attacking players in the system that know how to operate, it works. When you've got Pulisic, who can't really defend, isn't quite sure what to do attacking, especially I've seen him play right wing back live. I've seen him play left wing back, just doesn't cut it. It's not his position. It's not something he's good at. I know it's no slight against him, but I really don't want to see him there again because he just doesn't work. And then you've got Alonso, who against Tarek Lamptey was a complete mismatch. When James went off, I was almost crying. I said to Taron, how are we going to get through this next 60 minutes? Because Tarek Lamptey is going to absolutely rip him apart. Luckily, he came off. I don't know if there was an injury or something with 20, 25 minutes left to go. But Alonso, just positionally, sometimes he's 20 yards away from Lamptey. And I know the play can sometimes be on the other side, but you can't be 20 yards away against a player that's 3-4 yards quicker than you. And you're not even looking at him. There's so many times we're at pitch level yesterday, row 3 in the lower tier. So we're almost, at the side. Well, we're pretty much on level with the players. And you can see everything that they can see. And there's so many times where positionally, Pulisic, again, I'm not having a go at him, but the system...
No. You have to have a go today, Jonathan. Today we don't hold back. Today we don't hold back. The
system needs someone that is going to make sure that, yes, we want to defend, we want to pick up players, we want to pick up runs, but we need to push forward. And what James does so well, underlapping and overlapping and getting forward, is he always makes sure that the left back or the left wing back is worried about what's going on behind him. And we didn't do that enough yesterday at Brighton. Only when Kante came on did we actually roll them. And they started going, right, we're going to have to bypass the midfield. They were starting to play balls long because they couldn't get the ball in the midfield like they did so freely earlier in the game with Basuma and Lallana, etc. But those wing-back positions are so important. Cucurella was having a field day yesterday. Going forward, got the cross for the goal. Pulisic, again, just doesn't front up his man. And again, it's not just him, it's other players. When we look at the Villa game, when we look at the 4 games we've drawn this season, Everton, that poor team that Everton put out, the ball comes in from the cross, we don't defend it properly. So it's not just, that we're not pressing crosses, because what we do in right and left wing back, James and Chilwell, generally they do front up the man. They do put an attempt in to stop the cross, or they push them wide, push them on their weaker foot. But every time the left and right back, or the left winger and right winger of the opposition team at the moment, are just freely able to just put the ball in the box. And we could defend, to certain stages of the game. But then when you've got continually balls going in the box and strikers that, with clever movement, we saw Lukaku peeling off of Konsa against Villa, moving on to Mings, getting the header in front of him and putting us 2-1 up. And Welbeck did it yesterday, came into the box late, got in between Rudiger and Chalobah, and whilst Chalobah did quite well, he came on, got rid of the ball, heading, defensively, covering the position of Pulisic defensively. But then eventually we were gonna crack. And it happened against Burnley when Lowton put the ball in, and then it was nodded on, and I think Vidra put the ball in the back of the net. Yes, the Man United game was a goal from a crazy counter-attack from a corner, but if you look at it, the Everton game, the Burnley game, and now this Brighton game. It's all from crosses into the box because we
Yeah.
are not pressing the man. And I know in the Burnley game we may have had Chilwell, I think we may have had James, but it just seems a common thing that we don't seem to want to press the cross. We just want to almost defend our box. We did it away to Brentford valiantly in the Premier League when we won 1-0. We've done it against Villa where we almost just sat in our box and said, just put the ball in, we'll try and clear it. But you can't keep doing that. With Silva, you've got a bit more of a commanding centre back, Christensen as well. But when they go off and you've got Azpilicueta, Chalobah and Rudiger, whilst Chalobah and Rudiger are better in the air, Azpilicueta is of late, just the performances haven't quite been there. Is his head turned? Is Christensen's head turned? Is Rudiger? I mean, there were some fans yesterday stupidly telling Rudiger to go and sign for Real Madrid, which didn't make any sense to me.
Wow, he was probably our best defender. He was probably
Exactly.
the one that was putting in the hard yards.
But this is the thing, and fans now, and not just at the stadium, but on Twitter. Yesterday was an absolute mess on Twitter. I just came off because it wasn't full of thought out opinions. It wasn't, tactically astute. It wasn't trying to break down a game. It was just people just getting angry and getting annoyed with each other. And I'm not really here for that. I'm here to try and break it down analytically and actually give an opinion. And my opinion from yesterday was, from start to finish, we were not good enough. And yes, to go back to your original point again, the system is set up for players that can play it. We now have a squad of fit players that cannot play this system. With no James or Chilwell, you can't play Alonso there.
The system gets broken without James and Chilwell.
It is.
The system gets broken.
The system is efficient if you've got players that know how to play it. We now have almost a squad that doesn't know how to play it because we don't have the wing-backs who are so vital to the system. And the pivot last night, who would make up for the deficiencies of the wing-backs, were just not there. Jorginho was so often caught out on the ball, off the ball. He just looked slow. He was hardly chasing back. Kovacic did try. There was a few good runs and passes. But again, positionally, they were both so out. It was only again and I mentioned Kante when he came on, and we continually, rely on him. When he came on and almost added a presence and confidence to the squad, then they started plugging the gap. And because we were overloading in the midfield areas, we were able to then get the ball out wide. But before that, we just weren't turning them. Hudson-Odoi, the chance where he's passed to Mount. Yes, it was probably a handball looking back at it now, but have the confidence to go on. Pulisic last night, how many times did he not run at the left back Cucurella? Maybe it's because he's thinking, they're going to double up Burn and Cucurella or March or whoever else was covering that side. But no time really, other than maybe once Hudson-Odoi when we put the ball in the box, do we actually run at the left back, the centre back, and turn them and make them worry about what we're going to do in behind. And that's the biggest problem. The system is okay, but when you've got players that can't play it, it needs to change. And whilst I was happy with the 3-man midfield yesterday, I think we may have to revert to a 4 purely because we need to get players in other parts of the pitch that know their position. Because right now we have a right wing back and a right wing back really that are dysfunctional. Are we going to play Azpilicueta there? Are we going to play Pulisic there? Hudson-Odoi there? Doesn't work in my opinion. So you've now got to adapt to the card you've been dealt. Yes, we've been unlucky with injuries. Yes, we've been unlucky with COVID. But we've no Chilwell and James, who I remember that Leicester game, and me and Taryn were saying how good and efficient we were. It was incredible to see, the way we were going up and down the pitch and really worrying Leicester every time we got the ball. Now teams are turning up to Stamford Bridge and going, we either park the bus or we can even outplay you now, because Brighton at times outplayed us.
They did. Second half, they outplayed us. Absolutely.
So
in fact, after we scored, they outplayed us.
Yeah, I'd say for 60 minutes. Burnley came and just protected their box, got one chance and scored. Brighton came and just dominated. So you've got two ways of looking at it. It's not just one way where we're getting beaten now. So often, last season and even this season, defensively, we were so sound. It looked like we were going to get a clean sheet every single game. It was almost like once we'd scored, turn the TV off, we're not going to concede. But now we just look fragile. And I know we've got injuries at centre-back. We've got leaders like Silva who can't play. Even Mendy, Tara made a good point yesterday that he still looked a little bit shaky as well. It's just throughout the squad, there is complacency, but also fatigue. And that's one thing that Tuchel can't account for, is the fatigue, because we're playing plays week in, week out. He even said we're going to start getting injuries. We've now got one with James who looks to be serious as well. So yeah, the system, unfortunately, we need to come up with something different, and it's not going to come up before the Liverpool game. Then we've got Spurs in the League Cup semi-final. We've then got Chesterfield, maybe in between the League Cup semi-final and the Man City game. We've got about 10 days there where maybe Tuchel could come up with something different, because the Chesterfield game, I think we should pretty much just play under 23s because we need the rest. So you've got that 10 days. I think that's when Tuchel has to start going back to the drawing board and thinking, what can I do to not save our season, but enable to salvage what we have, try and get into the top 3 minimum, try and win the Club World Cup, try and, win the League Cup. But the title is completely gone now because we just can't sustain a challenge with the way we're playing right now.
Yeah, man. I mean, I want to bring in Ryan now into the mix. Look, completely understand what you're saying, Jonathan, in regards to the system is probably not conducive to the players that we have currently available, which is true. The way I looked at, a lot of people were having a go at the double pivot yesterday. They're not controlling the midfield. There was a portion of the game where Jorginho was doing silly mistakes in terms of giving the ball away or mistiming the pass. But then there were other portion. We need to be very, very understanding of the holistic point of view of the game. The double pivot is not there to combat against Brighton all alone. You do need the wingers, the wing backs. Thomas Tuchel said it many times in the press conference that the wing backs are box to box. They're like midfielders. So if you don't have, as Jonathan says, if you have dysfunctional wing backs that are not supporting the midfielders, the double pivot, well, already you're disadvantaged. You're massively disadvantaged, not just with the ball, without the ball as well. With the ball, we can't seem to build up. I've never seen so many instances yesterday where Mendy had to go long. Generally, we build up, but it seems like we can't trust the build up with Alonso and Christian Pulisic. They're just not capable of building up play. And when that's the case, if you guys remember the Ryan's tactical analysis that we've done several times in this particular channel, the wing backs, the 3 at the back, the double pivot, they're all connected in order to build up from the back and in order to keep possession. It can't just be done by Kovacic and Jorginho alone. This is why Reece James, Chilwell, Rudiger, Silva, Chalobah, Kante, Jorginho, Kovacic, they all work as a tandem to control the game. The game isn't controlled by Jorginho and Kovacic or Kante. No, it's controlled by that group. It's a force. So now that we don't have the caliber of players that to play this style, that's why it's getting broken. And this isn't Thomas Tuchel's fault. This is just our issues that we don't seem to have the caliber of players to fit the particular system. Ryan, what do you have to talk about when people talk about these systems of, Thomas Tuchel needs to do something about it? We've got a lot of injuries. How do you feel about this situation?
Well, luckily in the summer, I analyzed all Tuchel's teams and all his systems, and I would say that formation for me is not, and it would not make a difference. We'll talk about AC when we start talking about the spine of our team in the future, and that'll come up. I'll just reply to the comments. But what I see common in Tuchel is a philosophy. Same thing with Pep. Even though Pep is predominantly forward at the back, there are many times in his career at Barca, at Bayern, where he played a 3 at the back. But at the end of the day, it was a Pep philosophy, possession-based, one-touch passing, patient build-up, and direct getting players in behind. That is his philosophy. And when I think about Tuchel philosophy, it's kind of like Klopp in a way. It's heavy metal football, but really possession-based at the same time. When he was at PSG, despite not being a 3 at the back all the time, yes, he had it for a season, but despite being a 4 at the back predominantly, I would say that the roles of his fullbacks is very similar to the roles of our wing backs right now. The role of his central midfielders, how they would get wide and allow the fullbacks to go as wingers, is the same thing. The way how the wingers as Neymar are able to drop into deep inverted areas in midfield is the same way how we use our wingers. The same
Yeah.
way we have that our strikers could roam and be very flexible and dynamic. It's the same thing that we do now. So despite us having a 3 at the back and PSG having a 4 at the back, the philosophy is the same, the idea of football is the same. And I
Correct.
think
Correct.
even if we change system right now, we would have one fit fullback as an Azpilicueta to get up and down, covering more ground than he would need to as a wing back, probably just as more or less. And we would have Alonso alone, and then our two centre backs now. Um, Christensen is having injury problems. Chaloba, is he good as centre back in a back two? And Rudiger, still question marks on how well he will do in a back two, as opposed
Yeah.
to being a left centre back who could roam up and down and have freedom. So I think even though we want to fix, I think it's not smart right now with how much games and how much little bit of
It
training
isn't.
time
It
we have
isn't
now.
smart. It isn't smart,
No,
bro.
no training
Can you
time
imagine,
now.
Ryan? Can you imagine, Ryan, that if he was to scrap everything all of a sudden now and try something different, they need to work on these sort of things in training.
Yeah, and it's not only, it has so much games coming now. It's kind of like you don't like a wall. In preseason, you can destroy the whole wall and build a new one. But right now, if we don't like a wall, we need to take out the worst looking bricks, try to fix that, replace the bricks, and paint over the wall. But we have plenty of the same components of that wall still, because we can't just dismantle it in January. And I think there's more good to bad than in our system. If we analyze the other games, I would say the performance wise, many of it has to do with individual quality within the spaces. But I think a lot of it, I wouldn't mind if in the last month we did not perform to the same intensity, yet we took the chances. And I think that given our injuries and our situations, we did create enough chances within our system. When
Oh
I
yeah.
think about our system, I think positionally, there are some things flawed in it, but more, I would say 70% of our system created the opportunity for us to win those games. It's the players within the system I felt they didn't have the energy. They didn't have the
Yeah.
one is the energy to keep the intensity to make the system special, his philosophy special. What we got to know about Tuchel, that intensity, what we fell in love with. And second is the quality to put away the chances and be cutthroat when needed. But the thing is, without the intensity, we still got enough chances to win these
Yeah.
games. And that's what I wouldn't have mind. Unfortunately, we didn't have the cutthroat intent also. So now we're left with nothing. We're left with all these draws, all these points dropped. And when I think about Tuchel, I'll just end it with this. You can talk about changing system how much you want. It doesn't matter to me because at the end of the day, Tuchel has a philosophy of football. And the same energy you need to play in a back three is the same energy you would need to play in his back four. Because
100%.
predominantly, the role of his players is pretty much the same in all his different systems.
Nah, man, that is so well said. People tend to think, oh, just change from back three to a back four. As you said, first of all, do we have the personnel? Secondly, it's the same energy. Don't think that if we go from a back three to a back four, all of a sudden players can relax a little bit. You will still need to maintain the same level of energy, if not more, in order to still produce good quality, performances. And on top of that, what Ryan also said, and I completely agree as well. You look at some of our previous matches. Man United, Callum Hudson-Odoi had a chance. De Gea with a big save. We had a couple of other chances in that game. We didn't put it away. Everton, we had several chances against Everton. We did not put it away. And then a few other matches leading up to this particular game against Brighton. We've always had chances. We don't put them away. That's our big issue. And that's the system creating those chances. So for me, I don't think it's really the system, ladies and gentlemen. This comment here from Bonolo, true, changing system right now is not a good decision, especially given the tough games coming up. We need to stick to what we know until the right time comes to change if necessary. That's how I feel as well. Let's now move from, being the system issue and whatnot, Thomas Tuchel's fault. I want to get a one-line answer in regards to Thomas Tuchel's fault before we start talking about players that we want to keep, that needs to go, contract situation. A lot of comments coming out about Andres Christensen's contract, Azpilicueta's contract, Rudiger's contract, and whatnot. Johnathan, someone's saying this is Thomas Tuchel's fault. And I don't really understand what they mean by this. System, when they talk about the system, okay, I understand you don't like the system. But some people are saying, oh, Thomas Tuchel, whether it be his substitution or he's too conservative, he's too defensive. He doesn't let the attackers express themselves. It's Thomas Tuchel's fault. He doesn't let he doesn't allow the attackers to go out there and really just ball out. I don't understand. Like, what's he meant to do when he's in front of goals and the players stuff up? Do you know what I mean? We saw Mason Mount. Was it not the... was it this game or was it the last game? Aston Villa, where he missed open goal. I think it was the last game. And then Callum Hudson-Odoi also missed in the last game. Luckily, we ended up winning 3-1. But, Johnathan, how do you feel when people say it's Tuchel's fault?
It's a mixture of things. As I said earlier, it's we've had COVID, we've had injuries, we've got players that aren't finishing. Yeah, I mean, we gave Lukaku one good chance yesterday. Pretty much, he then got into the box. So I think the ball was cleared. Other than that, we didn't really get him into the game. Yes, we had the Hudson-Odoi Mount chance, and then Mount, there was a 50-50, which I still haven't been able to see. That apparently was 50-50 and could have gone either way if the ball had been allowed to go into the back of the net and the ref hadn't whistled. But yeah, and the reason I was saying about the system is because, look, I feel like we're just becoming too predictable. That's why we have to change it. As much as we've got deficiencies, the reason, in my opinion, or the main reason as well, is because we're now becoming too predictable. I said it about Burnley and Brighton. You've got two different teams who come and will just set up in two certain ways against our system. The only way to play differently and to change the way our season is going is to change formation, in my opinion. But again, I understand the flaws of doing that and why, you then don't allow Rudiger to go forward and the right centre back. And Tuchel, yes, he relies on his philosophy. I agree with Ryan and yourself, Miz. But for me, Tuchel has got to take some blame here, of course. But again, when he's setting up teams, the Villa game, the way, okay, we won 3-1. You look at the Everton game, that team was good enough to beat Everton. This game, it was more than good enough to beat Brighton. We had the chances in both those games. Even Burnley, we had 3-4 really good chances. So in all those games, really, if we'd have put the ball in the back of the net even one more time, we would have won them. So yes, I don't think it's all on Tuchel because, the way he's setting us up in very difficult circumstances, we are good enough to win. We've got the chances to win. It's not like we're not creating any chances. We've been times in the last couple of seasons where we haven't created chances and barely scored. Then we have created chances and still barely scored. So it's difficult to pinpoint on one thing. I think Tuchel, the players, the system, there's a share of the blame everywhere, in my opinion.
So,
I think we're all a little
in
bit...
your perspective, because this is quite interesting, Johnathan, from what I'm sort of getting the vibe from you is that, do you kind of feel under Thomas Tuchel right now with the players that he has, that he's not being pragmatic enough? Like, that's the kind of vibe I'm getting from you, that, okay, you've had your first team players that you desire to start and play for you, but they're not there, Mr. Thomas Tuchel. You got to do with what you have right now, and you're not doing enough. That's sort of the vibe that I'm getting from you. Is that sort of correct? If I'm,
I just feel like, look, everyone's getting agitated and annoyed. There's other teams that have had less COVID, less injuries, and the Premier League have started saying on their statements because of COVID and injuries. Now, we had way more COVID and way more injuries than other teams that have had games cancelled. So I get why Tuchel's annoyed, but that's the hand you've been dealt. There's no point, being in this position where you're complaining and getting annoyed, moaning at refs. He doesn't normally do that. You can tell he's agitated, and you can tell he's a little bit rattled.
He was agitated yesterday.
Yeah,
he was so agitated.
I think Tuchel has a different side to him, and I'm fearing that all these issues could get the best of him because we've seen this side of Tuchel in his career already. I think he's done well to deal with one problem, two problem, three problem, but around 4 to 5 problems, it's getting a lot now. And even behind the scenes, it's probably getting taken to what we don't know. For example, players leaving and stuff, and him knowing all this. And I just really hope we don't lose the dressing room because this manager is special, but we'll get into that when we talk about him more. But yeah.
Yeah, but
Continue,
carry on, Jonathan, bro.
Yeah, he's letting things get on top of him, and I know it's frustrating. I know we've had a lot of hands go against us this season, and yesterday highlighted that with the the penalty on Pulisic as well. I get that, but you can only deal with what's in front of you. And right now, he's got an unfit squad. He's got injuries. He's got Werner still struggling with COVID. Apparently, still in bed. We've got our main wing backs who are so vital to our system, both out for maybe 3-4 months at least. But you just got to get on with it. There's no point of complaining. There's no point of getting agitated and getting annoyed. You need to just get on the training pitch and work, and you need to
find a
try and
solution.
rotate.
Find a solution.
Exactly. Try and you've got to rotate in the Chesterfield game, obviously, but the next 2 games is massive.
I want to give you a really nice analogy, Jonathan, and to the live chat as well. Nearly 150 of you guys are live right now. Smash the like button, get those likes up to 100 straight away, and follow the boys in the socials in the description, please. Jonathan, I want to give you a really good analogy, and I just thought about this, before going live, and I was just thinking, I don't know if you, and maybe you guys may be able to relate to this. I remember as a kid, being in high school, right? Let's say in high school, and there'd be an exam and I absolutely flunked it. I didn't do well. And my dad'd be like, what'd you get? And I'd be like, oh, I didn't do well. Dad'd be like, well, why not? And then I'd be like, X, Y, Z reasons, because I had a headache. I didn't feel well. I wasn't, I didn't have enough time to study. And my dad's response would be like, I don't care. You know what your objective was. You needed to do that. You needed to do well. I'm not here to listen to excuses. And it feels like this is what you're trying to say, Jonathan, is that Mr. Thomas Tuchel, you know what the objective is from Roman, which is to make sure that you're in the title chase. No one actually said go out there and win it, but be in the title mix, which kind of looks like we're probably not in it. Yes, there's been a lot of adversities, and I want to hear the other side of the coin from Ryan, of the flip side of this story. But what Jonathan's trying to say is that, these are the cards that's been dealt with you. Let's move on with it. Let's find a solution and get the wins, because at the end of the day, our team is still good enough to beat that Everton team. Our team is still good enough to beat that Burnley team. Our team is still good enough to beat that Brighton team. So I get what you're saying, Jonathan, that stop the excuses. Let's get on with it. Ryan, I want to now ask you the same sort of question. Jonathan puts up a really good case that there could be some element of Thomas Tuchel's fault, and some of the live chat people, I'm just taking this perspective for the timing. It's not something that I believe in, but I'm just taking this perspective. Some of you guys are saying that maybe some parts of it could be Thomas Tuchel's fault. Thomas Tuchel isn't, immune to criticism. Ryan, I want to hear from you, because you said that maybe you can deal with 1 problem, 2 problem, 3 problem, and when it culminates to 5, 6, 7, 8 could be an issue. But I want to hear from you, Ryan.
Oh, back to the initial question. You asked if he wasn't pragmatic enough or dynamic enough. And I think that's not the case, because this is the first time I've seen a manager within a system that could pay attention to individual quality attributes and change his system to suit. For example, when we have our double pivot, when Kovacic plays, he plays as a left mid, a completely different role, right next to our left wing back. Whereas when Kante plays, he plays nearly as a right winger at times. For many other managers, that would never be the case. You'd always try to fit your player into the designated role. Whereas Tuchel does different. He changes his system and complete attacking shape. I know to some people just look at the attacking 5 and whatever, but if you watch the intricacies, he changes his shape nearly every game to suit the players that's available to him. I think that's something that one could argue could be a detriment to us due to chopping up so often. But I think when needed, he gets the best out of these players. Look, you can even see with Lukaku now. We're using him kind of like yesterday, even though it was against a high line and it's more of his game. Even against our lowish block, we see how much we are finding Lukaku now with those vertical passes and how close we are getting our wingers or attackers near Lukaku to link up play now. And it's only a couple games since he's be back. And Tuchel could already learn a lesson only in the span of a week or 2 to fix that. I think tactically, he's very flexible within the system. I've seen this system change so many times positionally that yes, on paper it's the same 3-4-3, 3-5-2, whatever you want to call it. But I think we've seen many changes. Before it was a flat back three and a horizontal pivot. Now we see basically a kind of back two with Rudiger near Jorginho and a vertical pivot with Jorginho sitting and a midfielder going up. Now, before we used to see inside forwards like us attacking midfielders. Now we see wide wingers and our wing backs getting to invert positions. The difference in how a striker operates. We've seen many changes, and it's think about it, less than 12 months, and the middle of that was off season. So he's done all these changes, and our team has responded well to it. I think typically our team has done fantastic to respond to the demanding nature of the ever changing part of his philosophy since he came in. And I think with all the COVID illnesses and everything surrounding, it's just been too much for us to adapt this time. And because even up to November, we've been doing it very well. We dropped a tactical analysis video of how great our inverted wing backs was, how different our midfield pivot is, how dynamic our attack was beginning to look. And now, as I say, I think there's a huge problem sometimes is when you don't have your own players. So now substitutes aren't like for like in qualities. And I'm talking about general qualities, not every single quality. And when substitutes are not like for like in general qualities, that means when somebody gets injured, you have to change a part of your system. Listen, even though Kovacic and Kante plays on opposite flanks, what we can say is that they are similar. One gets injured, but they are similar in how they operate in the game. They roam, they get up and down the pitch. Whereas if other parts get injured, say Chilwell gets injured and Alonso comes in, it's a completely different dynamic, and we need to change the suit. It's like all our progress have gone out the way. When you take out Hudson, who's a wide winger, and bring in an inverted forward like a Havertz or Mount, then you change the shape again. When you bring out Reece James, who is an inverted forward, overlapping wing back, and you bring in Aspi, who is more a fullback, you change the direction again. And that's the thing with us. We don't have a Tuchel team here. He's picked up the scraps and he's made something good, great out of it. Now we are in trouble, and now he's like trying to critically think every week. What can I do? How can I make this work? How can I make this work? How can we get a result this week? Whereas there isn't really a whole idea, a whole support system out there, a whole plan B, C, or D. It's like him having to make it up along the way because he doesn't have his players. And that's why I will support him every way, because I think he's the most flexible manager tactically we've had. And I think we need to go out there and support him as much as we could in January, but massively in the summer.
Man, I've always said it since the start of this season. I would rather let go of most of these players and keep Thomas Tuchel. I don't want the board to make this mistake again. This board, if you even think about letting go of Thomas Tuchel, even if he's in a scrappy top 4 battle or he misses out, please, there are no other better manager that's going to come in and do a much better job. Look at the stuff Thomas Tuchel has already done in such a short time. Be patient, give him the players. Here's another bad news from Shingo. Thank you, Shingo, for all the bad news today, but I do appreciate the news. There will be more scans and assessment on Chelsea's Reece James, with the prognosis looking grim as his right hamstring is most likely ripped. He is likely to be out for 6 weeks. So the fact that Ben Chilwell has gone for the season, now throw in Reece James, who's gone for the next 6 to whatever weeks, 6 weeks out, and then obviously rehabilitation, slowly easing back. So let's say out for good 2 months. There goes most parts of this season gone. So we need to understand now Thomas Tuchel is literally just got Alonso and Azpilicueta to deal with. And the boys we've just talked, they don't cut it. They simply don't cut it the way Thomas Tuchel wants to play. That's why Thomas Tuchel gets compromised. That's why you start seeing tinkering with, maybe Aspi doesn't bomb up. He tucks in a little bit. Alonso bombs up, but then someone has to, cover for that position. So yeah, it's a bit of a mess. Now we want to get and talk about the spine that we want to keep, players that probably needs to go, contract situation. The spine we want to keep is probably going to be a final piece of this conversation. Let's start with the contract situation. Johnathan, news going around that Christensen is looking to go to Barcelona, and I kind of knew this. All this time for the past 3 to 4 months, they've been saying Christensen's going to sign. Christensen's going to sign. Fabrizio Romano, here we go, here we go. And the brother simply has not signed the contract. And I had a feeling he's waiting for January. Because he's seeing what the Rudiger situation. If I was a teammate, and in the same position, I'd also be looking at the Rudiger situation, thinking, "Wait a minute, Rudiger's about to get a bumper deal with Real Madrid. I need to just wait around a little bit, see who else is maybe interested for me. I'm going to be a free agent, so I'm not going to cost any money, so I can make a lot more money in regards to salary." So what Christensen is doing, fair enough, he's doing what he's doing for himself. The difference, this is what the reports are saying, Rudiger actually wants to stay at Chelsea Football Club. He's actually said, "I want to stay, but I want X amount of money," which Chelsea categorically said, "We cannot match that one bit." Chelsea actually insulted him by giving him 140,000 as an offer, 140,000 per week, when some of our players like Timo Werner and the likes are on 272k per week. So Rudiger wants to stay. Board can't give him the money. Christensen actually got what he wanted from the board. He even wanted 3-year term. The board amended that and gave him that, and he still hasn't signed it because he's just testing the waters. And now Barcelona can snap him up for free. Azpilicueta is another one. He wants to feature in the World Cup. The only way you can feature in the World Cup is if you play minutes on a regular basis. You can't be playing for Spain if you're never going to get any game time. So he could possibly look at going to Barcelona. Johnathan, let's start with the contract situation before we talk about other players that needs to stay or go, and we talk about the spine, who needs to be the spine for the upcoming seasons. How do you feel about the whole Rudiger, Christensen, Azpilicueta?
Oh, it's not great to have 3 of your best defenders all looking to leave, is it? You look at that on the pitch last night, all 3 of them are playing. And to lose all 3 of them, yes, we've got Silva, who's probably going to sign an extension. You've got Chalobah coming through. But then what else are we going to do? We are really going to struggle. And I think Tuchel's got a philosophy. Tuchel's obviously got an idea of what he wants to do in the next few years. The club will do what they want to do financially. If the players don't want to accept, there's not much you can do. If they don't buy into the fact that we can have a very successful next 2 to 3 years under Tuchel, the way we're going right now, then, just let these players go. But I'd rather know in January that they are leaving so we can prepare. We can either prepare in January, bring some players in if we can, and just phase these players out. Or, just know that they're going in the summer so that we can at least prepare in the summer, because having this going down to the wire is very un-Chelsea-like. Normally we try and get it done a lot earlier. Normally we agree our contracts, even if it's rolling for players over 30. Just feel like it's careless. And now that the more it's gone on, the more other players or these players are getting...
But this is the thing, Johnathan. Do you think it was careless, or do you think literally 12 months ago under Frank Lampard, Rudiger was out the door? January, Rudiger was almost gone. In the summer as well, he was almost gone to West Ham. He just stayed around. Christensen also was another player that under Frank Lampard was also out the door as well. So do you reckon it was carelessness, or the fact that all of a sudden Frank Lampard was never the part of the plan, and then Thomas Tuchel came in and made these players superstars again? I mean, is it really all the board's fault, or is just a matter of the circumstance that we got into created this mess?
I get managers dictate a player's mood and how much game they play, but the board are responsible for contracts, so I have to hold them accountable. We talk about how good Marina's been in deals. Even if you're going to sell Rudiger, even if you're going to sell Christensen, you have to tie them down to deals, because you're not going to get money for players unless you tie them down to deals. If you let them run down their contracts, they're going to go for free. Even if you got them to sign up and then sorry, one moment. From all the shouting last night.
Your voice sounds
I've got a very sore throat. So, it's in my opinion, you've got to hold the board accountable, because we've got to a position where, we've got so many players going or looking for their contracts to expire, looking from other teams. I'm going to have a water break because my voice is completely going. But
bro, have a water break.
I
I'll
will
take
come
over.
back just 1 moment, yeah?
I'll take over. Ladies and gentlemen, look, personally, I feel I'm not too worried. Honestly, I'm not. If you don't want to be sticking around at Chelsea, leave. I am upset though about Rudiger. I'm going to be honest with you. I wish our board just saw the situation with Rudiger, because Rudiger actually wants to stay. He's made it clear. If you look at Rudiger's performances, ladies and gentlemen, on a week-to-week basis, this brother puts his heart and soul. The way he runs like this, the driving runs, the track backs, the last-minute tackles, the last-ditch tackles. I feel like have the balls, have the kahunas to give the money to Rudiger at least. I honestly do not care about Christensen. As great as he has been, one, he still gets injured. He has this niggly back injury, this injury, that injury. And on top of that, the way he's tackled this whole contract situation, I have not liked it one bit. Christensen has been a little bit dishonest in this whole contract situation. He actually said to Chelsea, give me X, 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 and whatever term. Chelsea said, here you go. Then he thought, wait a minute. I'll just wait to see what Rudiger's up to. And then he said, I'll amend it. Chelsea amended it. And now he's like, well, hold on. Maybe January time comes around. We can see what happens. We'll see. Maybe I'll get a better deal. Azpilicueta, he's on his final legs. As much as Thomas Tuchel, ladies and gentlemen, wants Azpilicueta, and I understand, because he needs leadership. You can't run a particular team without having a set of leaders. I get that. But we need to start developing new leaders. We need to start thinking about who are going to be the next batch. We need to ensure we keep Thiago Silva, number one. He should be the one that we need to build the leadership around. We need to look at people like Reece James. We need to look at people like Kovacic, Mason Mount, Romelu Lukaku. We're talking about a spine which will lead to soon. But Azpilicueta is another one. I honestly, I don't mind if he goes. He's in his last legs. He will barely play for us. He's only playing now is because of all the injuries and the issues. Or else he's at a stage where he's not good enough for Chelsea Football Club anymore. He's a legend for us, no doubt. But the lads, and we've said it, we need better players to fit this Thomas Tuchel system. Johnathan, going back to your point again, bro. How do you feel about the contract situation with all of them?
Yeah, I just think it's careless because, you can't let three players in such key positions run down contracts. Even if you're going to sell them, you get them signed up, even for a couple of years with a clause in that they can go for a certain amount if you don't feel like, that they are going to be part of the long-term plans. But you can't allow them to enter their final years when they're still worth 25, 30 million. We've seen players go like Hazard. I know they're not Hazard level, but players with 1 year left can still attract 100, 150 million. Courtois went with 1 year left. He wanted to leave. We still got 30, 35 million. So even if, we were going to sell Christensen, going to sell Rudiger, couldn't tie Azpilicueta down to another 1 or 2 year deal. We should have at least got the work done to got them to commit and say, look, if you're not really part of the plans or if another team comes in for you, you can go. But Chelsea have to think of the business side. We've just reported 140 odd million pound loss, and you're letting three players that can all attract decent fees go for free. I just think it's careless. And like I said, I know the manager's going to, impact a player's mood, mentality, and game time. But ultimately, contracts and negotiations and looking at how many years these players have got left on their deals is down to the board, and they should have planned earlier. And if they,
I'm surprised that Aspi's one has come down to this. Like Aspi never had an issue. Like he was always part of every manager's plan. Do you know what I mean?
He still is part of a plan as a squad. He's maybe not a starter, but he's still a squad. And I get if he wants to leave. That one I understand. If you want to go, you will easily go into another team, abroad. You'll get into the Spain's 22 World Cup squad. I completely understand that. He's 32, 33 now. And we are getting
his last World Cup.
Exactly. We're getting to the point where we are now starting to have to replace him. We will replace him. He's not as key as he was in the last few years. But again, if he signs, fantastic. You get him on a 1-year deal, and then you've got him for leadership, for experience, and in situations like this where we have loads of injuries. But as I said, the Christensen and Rudiger ones are just careless, because even if you're going to sell Rudiger for 30 million, time down to another 1 or 2 years and say, look, if someone comes in, then we can sell you. And I haven't really talked about these deals, and I kind of ignore the subject because I'm just bored of it, because you go, you stay. But I want to know in January, because it's just, we aren't able to plan. We should have planned earlier. We haven't really backed Tuchel since he's come in, and now we're seeing the ramifications. When I talked about Brozier going on loan, is that a great idea when he could maybe be a third striker? Oh, but he needs game time. Yes, for the player. But as we talked about right at the start of this video, you said, what's best for Chelsea? For Chelsea is to have kept either Gilmour or Gallagher and Brozier.
Yeah.
And I know people are going to say to me, development. And Gallagher has absolutely thrived at Palace. I'm really happy about that loan signing. But the ones I wasn't really happy about was Gilmour to Norwich, because never understood why going to a team that's going to get relegated.
But the kid's getting abused there now.
How that helps.
He's getting abused.
Exactly. And I'll go back to what I said when he moved. Didn't understand that. He would have really helped us this season, because we've been really, really bearing the pivot. And the fact that we allowed him to go for development when we only really had 3 players that could play in that position. Sal was an emergency signing, which just has not worked. The fact that, we're playing other players over him and he's just sitting on the bench.
It's mad.
Just shows the confidence that Tuchel has.
Jonathan, we're playing other players that are half fit ahead of a fully fit Saul.
Yo, we rather play a pivot of Chalobah and Reece James instead of Saul.
That's mad.
That's what happened a couple of games ago, right?
And this is again, I'll go back to the board, because they're the ones that plan. We've talked about how good they've been in the last summer under Lampard when we signed those good players. That's great. Not many of them have pushed on. The one that we needed was Lukaku, and yes, last couple of games he showed more of what he can do. But we have not backed Tuchel. As I said, he's got a style of play that could win us the league. A few 6 weeks ago after the Leicester game, the Juventus game, we're going, wow, we can really challenge here. And from going 4 points ahead, we're now 8 points behind. I know we've had injuries, but it just doesn't make any sense that, we would leave a squad so lacking in certain areas and not have any backups. You take the Liverpool ones, the wing backs out. Okay, Alexander-Arnold, they haven't really got a right wing back, but they've got Tsimikas who can come in and do quite well. Take out the Man City left and right back. Well, I know Cancelo is so key to their system, but it's not a massive difference, because you've got Zinchenko that can come in, you've got Walker that can come in, you've got other players that can play left back, Ake. And because the system is so efficient and they've got quality when they come in with the replacements, we've got a system that's great. But when we've got replacements that come in, they are not good enough. The difference between our first and second is so wide, whereas Man City's is a lot smaller. And that's why they can rotate and not really look too different. So the fact that, we don't have a strong enough squad really doesn't help us. But to go back onto the point, or a few different points, we're starting to be predictable the way we're playing. Tuchel is getting agitated. It's not good signs, in my opinion. And that's the reason I want change, purely because we're starting to get a bit predictable. Teams are starting to understand. You press the right centre-back who wants to pass to the right wing-back. If you press that and don't allow them to then get into the pivot, you really stunt our play. And it happened yesterday when they smothered Jorginho and Kovacic. They smothered Alonso. They smothered Pulisic. They then tried to smother Chalobah and Rudiger. Rudiger didn't get forward nearly as much as he could have done yesterday because he was pushed back. And because of that, because we haven't got players that are good enough to play in this system, that's the reason I want to change. But look, we've got Tuchel is agitated, but we've got a world-class academy. What is the point of having it if you don't want to dip into it? I just feel like he's been a bit stubborn. He's almost tried to force the Premier League's hand to say, look, we need to get games called off. But they clearly aren't. They weren't going to call games off. We had to prepare. We've seen Vale come in against Brentford look really good.
This is one point I really agree with you, Jonathan.
Try something different.
Harvey Vale, the minutes that Ross Barkley gets,
give them to Vale. Why is Ross Barkley still in our squad? Now, I've always been someone who repeatedly said Barkley is a squad player at absolute best. He's not good enough for Chelsea. Why are we going with him when we've got Vale? We've got players out on loan that can come in and do a job more than what Sal can do sitting on the bench. I just don't understand. Levi Colwill we've got on loan. I trust him more than Sarr, and I get it. We talk about this players on loan for their development. It's great
So
for their
true.
development. We've seen Mount go out on loan, James go out on loan. It's then really helped them and brought us back. But in those situations, we didn't need those players. Right now, we actually need these players, and they're helping other teams instead of helping us. And that's what I don't understand. I don't want to bring back Gallagher and Brozier right now, but at the start of the season, when we were looking at our squad, we had a great 11, a great 15, which is kind of what Liverpool do. But when you look at then City, they're so far ahead of us. And Tuchel should have dipped into the academy and hasn't. And that has been one of the biggest issues with Tuchel for me, the fact that we haven't dipped into our academy. I just feel like he's trying to find problems. He's trying to find issues. He's not trying to find answers. So I just don't understand when you look at Vale's performance, even Simon's performance. I know it was a tough game for him against Brentford. Henry did ride him hard, but could he really be any worse than what Pulisic was last night? No, you're going to give slack to young players. Other players will compensate for those young players, but players are not going to think, oh, I need to compensate for Pulisic and work harder. They're going to think, oh, Pulisic can do a job. He's a first teamer. And the mentality is just, we'll get through games because we are good enough, but we're not good enough at the moment. We're fatigued. We're not playing, anywhere near as good as we can. We're not taking our chances. And it is very frustrating to watch. There's so many problems. We could talk about this for 3, 4, 5 hours easily. We've tried to, in 56 minutes, give some reasons. But it's just so frustrating to watch. But it's addictive. You know, I'm going to go to Liverpool game. I'm going to go to I can't get enough of it. I want to see us, because I just feel like there is a performance there. If we just change it up a little bit, there is a performance there. And I'm still buzzing for every game.
Jonathan, you brought up a really good point, about substitutions, and people say
I wanted to
Conte
touch
is
on
mad,
that.
right?
Yeah.
And his transfer strategy is mad. But if you looked at it, right, this guy had Ashley Young at left wing back, backing up his starting left wing back, right? And then he had Victor Moses at right wing back, backing up his starting right wing back, which is Hakimi and this and that. Those are like for like qualities. Yes, there's a difference in quality and talent and output, but it's similar. It allows you to keep your same tactics, because the same thing is, tactics doesn't change one player role. For a player to change their role, it changes everybody around them too. The 2 to 3 or 4 players around them, so that there isn't momentum from game to game anymore now. Because now, instead of a right wing back, Aspi and Richards plays 2 different roles. So what all pivot players and wingers around them have to do is completely different. They aren't allowed the time and the run of games to actually learn what they're supposed to do inside out. It's more of every game. You can do these movements for this game, and then scrap and we start again next game with who we have, and then scrap and we start again next game with who we have. Because to change the position of one player doesn't affect only one player, it affects 2 to 3 other people. I think that's something we need to take into consideration, which we should keep faith with Tuchel. I'm not going to say if we keep Tuchel, because that just disgusts me to think about. When we keep Tuchel, we need to make this a Tuchel squad, not a Tuchel 11, but a Tuchel squad, so that we could have plan A, B, C, and D from the get-go before the injuries happen. Before the bad thing, COVID happened, whatever. And I think that we really need to back this guy in January. And I know it's really a lot of bad news coming in with contracts now, but as Jonathan said, rather happen now, so that we have 6-7 months to plan accordingly. So it wouldn't just happen randomly in the end of August and we'll backtrack for another season again. Let's really plan properly now.
100%, man. Honestly, Jonathan said some really, really good points, which I want to touch on. But Jonathan, I'm a bit weary about your voice, and I know it's almost an hour now. I do want to make sure you're feeling. I'm losing my voice as well. I do want to make sure that you're feeling better, man.
Shouting so much, and just been talking. I've been talking non-stop, and I do talk. As you've seen from the stream, I talk a lot, but I'm really invested in this subject, and I've got another 10-15 minutes in me. But
brilliant.
I'm just, as I said, as much as I'm angry at Tuchel for losing his rag, I'm angry at some of our, the fans in the stadium yesterday. I was saying to Taryn, I'm just like, I get criticism, constructive criticism, but some of it yesterday was just unnecessary. And look, we're here on this channel and hopefully as many people as possible just to talk on a level. You know, we're not here to be rude to players. We're just here to critique and to give honest thing. And yesterday, that was what annoyed me yesterday with so many fans. It was just unnecessary slander against players that, yes, Cho wasn't good enough yesterday. Yes, Pulisic wasn't good enough yesterday. But who on that pitch was good enough? Lukaku got the header and got involved in some play. But other than that, who was really good enough? So it's just frustrating for me. But as I said, we all love Chelsea and we're all here because we want what's best of it. And I know Tuchel was invested in this project. You can see, you know, that he's passionate. You can see him on the sideline so often yesterday. He's going, move up the pitch. If you actually just put a 90-minute camera on him, you'll get, you know, how invested in the system and the side he is. You can't, no fault. I'm not saying, as much as I think he needs to reinvent and look at other solutions, you can't say he's not trying. And that's a sign of a manager, in my opinion, who will get it right. It's just, when will he get it right, in my opinion? It's not a matter of if, it's when. Because he's too good of a manager not to. And we've got, as I said, a fantastic squad. We've got an academy. We need to use it. Because we've got, you know, look at other teams in the league, you know, Burnley squad, you know, look at Wolves squad, Brighton, Norwich, all of these other teams. We've got much superior squads, and we haven't had as many issues with COVID as other teams, which is why we haven't had games called off. So I just feel like we're a little bit spoiled as Chelsea fans. And as much as I want success, and I've been used to success in the last 15 years, we've got to look at where we are in this season and go, COVID, injuries to so many key players. Man City have just stepped it up this season. If you look at the 19-game position from this season and last season, we would be top after 19 games if it was last season. So Man City have definitely stepped it up. We've definitely stepped up from last season, and so have Liverpool. We just haven't stepped it up enough. But in my opinion, as I say, given everything that's gone on, we are still made progress. And that's what, you know, we're complaining about draws here. We're complaining about being third or second technically at the moment, but we will be third when Liverpool play their game in hand. This is, you know, we're getting annoyed with Tuchel and we're getting annoyed with these players after being in this position, after all these problems. We're in every single competition we entered at the start of the season. League Cup semi-final, Club World Cup could soon be in the trophy cabinet. So, yeah, I just feel like we are getting really agitated. And I wouldn't say we're overreacting, but to be in this position, and we played poor for at least 50% of the games this season, what's going to happen when we actually get players that suit Tuchel's style of play, system, that can actually come in and rotate? What's going to happen? We should really walk the league, and no matter how good Man City are, because if we're this good and we're playing like crap, what's going to happen when we actually start getting things right?
No, 100%, man. 100%. I want to just tackle this super chat first of all before I get into this conversation again. Constantine, thank you so much for the super chat, my man. Buying off at 70 million for Cho before he even made 10 league appearances. We should have taken in, has not improved. Most goals is 4 in a season. I don't think it was 70 million, my man. I think it was about 40 million. But yeah, I get your point. We will talk about all of this very, very soon. I just need to get back to this particular. Yeah, let me just take that out. Ryan, just going back to some of the points that Johnathan said, and also the contract situation. I mean, let me ask you the contract situation first, and then we'll talk about some. You know, Johnathan said in terms of some of these academy players, maybe they could get a bit more opportunity as opposed to your Ross Barkleys, Malang Sarrs. To a degree, maybe even Saul, but I guess, you know, some of these things, it would be like a slap in the face for the board if we do them. Maybe that's probably why. There's some politics as well. Let's be honest, there's always politics in football. Before we get into that, Ryan, I want to ask you, Rudiger's contract situation, Christensen's contract situation, Azpilicueta's contract situation, they all seem to be going, my man. And I want to hear how you feel about the whole situation.
I'm really worried about the whole situation because I feel these players have been here quite a while now, and they have the Chelsea identity in them. I know when a player is leaving, people are easy to turn on them and say they're not a proper Chelsea, whatever that means, and this and that. But they have a Chelsea identity in them. And anytime I look at bringing any young players, I love bringing in young players, but I always believe that young players should be brought in as the arms, as the limbs but not the spine of a team, because the
Bang
badge of
on.
Chelsea FC, the pressure of Chelsea FC is toughest for even the biggest of
Too
talents.
much.
I feel like even if Alfonso Davies come here, he will struggle. I feel even if a Haaland comes here, he will struggle at first. Because if you think about Davies at Bayern, look at the players he has around him. Look at
Mm.
Hazard at age 21 when he came. It had Lampard, it had Terry, it had Ashley Cole, Ivanovic, this and that. We always had a strong spine at Chelsea. And
Yeah.
I think that when under Lampard, we have kind of lost our spine to an extent. By choice, one, because he kicked out some of senior players from the first 11, and then with Hazard and the company leaving. And I think that under Lampard, we've made those young players our spine. And while they've made us really, really proud at moments, I will not forget how proud Mount and Pulisic and all of them made us from time to time. But for these players at 20, 21, 22 years old to become the spine of Chelsea on their own without senior players to guide them is tough. And I know people say we have senior players. Now we have to dissect senior players that is good enough with the leadership skills and senior players who are not good enough with without the leadership skills. And
Mm.
I've made a little I mean, I had a few issues yesterday because a lot of people calling out signings we should make Chouameni, Declan Rice, this and that. All of the suggestions is always under 22 years old of age, and I'm thinking a lot of them is people from different leagues, and what I'm thinking is that it would take. I'm all for youth, but do you have patience for 1, 2, or even 3
Yeah.
seasons for these people to become the end product, especially if they're from other leagues? Because with Havertz, poor guy had COVID, and it only took like 1 month for people to abuse him, whereas we were begging for him since June or before June. For five
Before
months,
June,
we
bro.
were
Before
begging for
June.
him. That was the golden boy. This at one point, people were saying this is a generational talent, but people forget that it takes time to adapt, especially foreign players. And that's why I'm so worried about Chouameni. Yes, a great talent, but it takes time. It's not like a Smith Rowe and English players like a Mount or a Saka who's been in English football. They know the pace of it since young. It's not like that. And I think that we need a spine. Now, I've made a list here actually, and I know we say we're going to talk spine later, but I really want Jonathan to chime in on this. 'Cause I think he'd have
Mm.
good things to say. So I'm Miz for 1 minute here, and
Yeah, for sure, bro.
but I've written down possible players that can be our spine, right? And it's Silva, Rudiger, Christensen, Azpilicueta, Alonso, Kovacic, Jorginho, Kante, and Lukaku, right? Silva is 37. 1 season max left. Rudiger leaving. Christensen leaving. Azpilicueta leaving. I'm laughing because Alonso in brackets I put a nice word here. But Kovacic, but he's simply just not good enough. Um
Yeah.
Kovacic, he's doing well, but it's up and down. Can't do it on his own.
Mm.
Jorginho hasn't renewed yet. His agent is always talking about him leaving Chelsea. Kante
Mm.
can't string 3 games in a row. Lukaku only just arrived. So when you think about our potential spine, it's really reminded me of West Indies. If anybody watch cricket here, all our legends, or not, I'm not calling these guys legends, but all our
Chris
senior players
Gale,
are
Dwayne
leaving.
Bravo,
Yeah,
They're
all of
but
legends,
those
man.
people leaving.
They've been incredible for years, but they're not good enough now. I
yeah,
know, I
and
know what you're saying.
they're just leaving now. And now we have all these young talented West Indies, but nobody to guide them, nobody to know what it means to play for West Indies, what does it mean to play international cricket instead of
Yeah.
CPL and this and that. This is like that with these young players. What does it mean to play in the Premier League, to challenge for a title, to win trophies? They don't know that. And I'm not saying they can't do well at Chelsea. I'm just saying that it'd be really hard for them to do well on their own without significant help. And even if you get a Delit, he struggles at Juve. He isn't a mature CB yet. He would cost about 100 million probably. Even if you get Tchouameni, even Koundé, very young, playing in a La Liga, which is not the Premier League. We have all these solutions, but when we thought about Werner, when we thought about Havertz, when we thought about all these other great young talents that we brought in only 2 seasons ago, we were so positive, but now we have lost all. I'm not against Tchouaméni. I said I want Tchouaméni to come, but I don't want to put that weight on him to be the main midfielder at Chelsea yet. You know what? I want him to have that guidance to be molded into it. That's what I'm saying. I don't want Gallagher, Tchouaméni, Broha, all these
Like,
young players. Oh,
basically, what you're saying, you don't want a bunch of young kids. Like, who's the leader? Who's the spine?
and then expect them to challenge for a Premier League title against Pep's Man City, Klopp's Liverpool.
Pep's Man
How
City's
fair
going
is
to
that?
eat them up.
Yeah. So that's why I'm saying we're in a dangerous position right now that I don't want to be like Manchester United. You bring in senior players from other clubs to lead Manchester United, the biggest club in England. How could you bring a foreign player, Bruno Fernandes, and now Bruno is only here a couple months and telling people what it means to be a Man U player? I don't want other player coming into Chelsea and teaching people what it is to be Chelsea. I want Chelsea to be Chelsea and them bringing in already established culture into Chelsea. And the thing is, I'm feel like we're in a crossroads here that we kind of being left with no choice now. And it's like bringing in leaders versus actually molding your own leaders. And I think that we're gonna approach a kind of transition really, because even though we have we have promise, it's gonna be a transition to raise the quality of the people that has potential in our team and also the mental leadership capacity of these players. So it's both on a talent and mental level. And I think we're in for quite a ride, especially if the board doesn't have a long-term plan with a manager, a philosophy, and the players they want to keep and go with. It always feels like we are critically thinking on the spot. And it's like we don't know what's coming next season ever at Chelsea. And meanwhile, we somehow pull out a trophy out of the bag, top four, third, wherever. It could never materialize the ongoing success competing for number one every year because of that. We get away with it with bare success, but not top success like a Man City.
I agree. I think in terms of leaders, though, we've got to look at Mendy as a keeper. He's got to be able to marshal. He's got to be able to talk more. Didn't do as much last night. Didn't really hear him much. A couple of times got agitated, but there wasn't as much talking from him yesterday. But then you look at the leaders. You've got to look at. I'm not saying you need to know what it's like to be Chelsea. I think you're born as a leader. I think James is not as much of a speaker. He just leads by example. In terms of the way he plays, I think Mount is more of a leader built into him. So you've got those three, in my opinion, that need to step up. Because, yes, most of the other ones you've mentioned, other than probably Kovacic, who, again, is a silent leader. We don't need silent leaders. We need players that can rally a team. When we're 1-1, you've got 3 minutes left. And I know there's probably no time to score a goal, but only really Lukaku was trying to get the ball back, was actually going, well, we can try and score here. We were just deflated. There was no one going, boys, let's summon some strength to somehow, make 1 or 2 chances before the end of the game. So, yeah, leaders, we are really lacking. And this is why I don't want to say the name. I'll just say his first name. This is why so many people want Declan, because he's going to come in and he will know what it's like to be at Chelsea. I know he's gone to West Ham, but he's a bit more of a natural leader, someone who's going to talk, because we don't have any talking leaders. And it is a problem. Like yesterday was very quiet. As I said, it was so close. It wasn't enough talking. You've got Rudiger's body language, who he pushed a lot yesterday. There was a bit of a rash challenge he made just in front of us where he came off the floor. Could have been a red. But in the rest of it, and as Miz said, he runs like this. It's his attitude. As much as he doesn't talk as much, it's the same with James. It's the way he leads from how he plays. Mount is a talker, and that's really a problem. So yeah, leaders going forward is going to be a big problem. You've brought in players like Havertz, like Lukaku, that you want to be leaders. Again, Havertz is not a talking leader, someone who will just get on with the game. So I do worry in that respect. You look at the great teams that have gone by with Chelsea. We had always, we've talked about it, always had a good spine. Remember the days of Cech, Terry, Lampard, Drogba? We're far from that now.
Throw in Ashley
Yes,
Cole as well, probably.
Yeah, and Ivanovic, but I'm talking about just a middle spine, because as much as it's great to have a spine and leaders all over the pitch, if you have a central spine that can, like Silva, when he reads the play and he's able to talk to whoever's around him, you can read the play from that position really nicely as a centre-back or as a goalkeeper. We don't really have anyone now, because we could lose some of the ones that are there. We need to somehow find some leaders or bring in some leaders, which it is going to be difficult, because yes, you want players to know what it's like to play for Chelsea. I feel like the current crop are a little bit distant. That at the end of the games now, you've got Mount, Lukaku, Rudiger, James, Mendy sometimes, and Jorginho, Azpilicueta, maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 after every game, that kind of walk around the centre. They don't go to the outer skirts of the pitch. They don't go to all 4 corners. They barely go over to the away end. And that kind of disconnect and lack of leadership does show on the pitch. So leadership is definitely a problem here, and it's a good point to raise. But it's not something you can just teach overnight. As I said, it's something that you have within. It's something that you're born with. Mount, I think, has it in terms of speaking, and as I've repeated, Mount in terms of speaking, James in terms of the way he plays. But I'm really struggling to think of anyone else. So we need to look at this squad in January and in the summer and plan for 3-4 years ahead. With Tuchel at the helm, we're a side that have chopped and changed and still won, but we do need to settle eventually, even on just a squad of players, because right now the squad isn't good enough. We need to get rid of Deadwood in January and the summer and bring in players that, when we've got Chilwell and James out, can slot in. When we've got Jorginho and Kovacic out, they can slot in. And yes, we've probably got some solutions, in the pipeline. When you've got Gallagher coming back, let's say you've got Brozier in the front line. We've let someone like Livramento go who could probably slot in. But we're always thinking about players' development. I go back to my point earlier. We have to think about what's best for Chelsea Football Club. Because right now, we've done what's great for these players. But if their needs and the side's needs is more for them to stay with us and get 15 games. Because Gilmour would have got 15, 20 games this season. Gallagher would have got 15, 20 games. Brozier would have got 15, 20 games. And I know you can't envisage that at the start of the season, because a lot of us said it was probably good enough. But we need to think about number one, and that is us. Players come and go. Their contracts, they will sign, they will leave. But Chelsea will always stay. And that's why we have to think about the priority. And right now, there's a lot that needs to change to bring Chelsea back, not to the pinnacle of English football, because we've never really been there other than for a couple of seasons under Mourinho. But we need to be a team that is feared. You go to Man City, the teams almost fall over because they just have a presence. Even at Liverpool, teams now come to Stamford Bridge and they're not afraid. And I go back to my points earlier where you press the right centre back, the right wing back, and the left centre back and left wing back at the moment with no Chilwell and James, and we are really, really struggling, and that has to change.
No, 100%. We're gonna let Johnathan go, ladies and gentlemen. Now he's given us the time, and I appreciate so much for that, Johnathan. My man, thank you so much for your time. Seriously.
Thanks for having me. It's good to vent and obviously talk with Ryan. And I'll make sure I come back on again, because it will get better. I feel that we've got a hard run of games. We're then going off to the Club World Cup. As I said, we're in this position and we're still complaining and we're still moaning. So it can't get really any worse. We can't get that many more injuries, touch wood. So yeah, thanks for having me, and stay safe, everyone. And remember that we're all here to support Chelsea. There's no point in slating players or slating each other. We're here for a common cause. We love the club. And as I said earlier, I'm addicted to it. I can't wait to go and see us play Liverpool. We might bring it out the bag. You never know. So yeah, thank you guys and take care.
Take care, man.
Happy New Year.
See you.
Happy New Year to you as well.
Yeah.
Ryan, we're going to continue on, my man. Look, I want to quickly just wrap things up with the contract situation. I just want to say to the live chat, the bottom line is, if they don't want to be here, then leave. That's it. Chelsea Football Club's way bigger than you. I appreciate the efforts that Azpilicueta has provided to the club. The club in return has been very, very nice to him as well. He's won a lot of things. So it goes both ways. You're going to be a legend, no doubt. But if you don't want to stick around, well, you don't have to stick around. And that's the way I look at it. Same thing with Christensen. If you don't want to stick around, then you don't have to stick around. With Rudiger, it's slightly different where he wants to stick around, but the money is an issue. I wish the money wasn't an issue. I wish we were able to give that money because, let's talk about this spine. I see a lot of people talking about having, the developing the future spine. And I want to ask this to Ryan and to the live chat as well. When I ask you guys live chat and to Ryan, when I say what is Chelsea's objective, I want each and every one of you guys to answer. What is Chelsea's objective on a season-to-season basis? In my perspective, Chelsea's objective is to compete for titles.
Yep.
Premier League title, domestic cups, Champions League. Chelsea is not a mid-table team where you can say compete for only top 4. From what I understand, from since I have followed Chelsea, which was roughly around 1999, 2000 onwards, or probably when Roman came in, from that onwards, is Chelsea competing for titles. So if that's the case, how can you say, let's be patient with the future spine, like in the likes of Reece, Chalobah, Mason Mount? That spine will not be able to compete for titles. We're already seeing that, though. We're already seeing that.
Yeah.
We are already seeing that those particular players are not ready to compete for the title as yet.
Yeah.
So do we deviate away from it, Ryan? So Ryan, I want to ask you, do we deviate away from what we believe in going for titles? Do we put a pause on going for titles and just say that let's build the spine over the next 2-3 years and then go for titles?
Well, I had a good analogy in my head. It's like, be wary of what spine you have before you go on deadlift. And some of these spines that people calling out here, if they go on deadlift the weight they want, they will snap their back in half and never lift weights again. Exactly. If you have a spine of all these under 21 players and you try to deadlift that Premier League title or that Champions League, you'll snap it back and then you will be complaining on Twitter again. And it'll just end on, I just want to tell you, like, Cobham is a never-ending cycle of generating talent. It will be. 2 years ago, Hudson-Odoi was the main thing out. Then it was Angerin. Now it's Harvey Vale. Then that, and it will continue like this. My thing is that it's very rare that one player would come in and make the impact like a Mason Mount. And even Mason Mount, we could see has to improve so much, to really be a top class player. My thing is that how do you say this is a talent I want to invest in, and then 1 season and a half again when that Harvey Vale show up, everybody wants to rubbish away this person invest a year in, and then bring in Harvey Vale, and then it'll be the same thing. A year and a half goes, and then a new Harvey Vale will come in, a new Hudson-Odoi will come in, and then they'll throw that name into the mix, and it will be this never-ending madness of just throwing in youth. Whereas I really respect Man City's way. They really have a scouting eye for what young players will work and do have the talent. Just because we have a talented academy doesn't mean that every single one of them will play for Chelsea. It isn't realistic, as you said, that if we don't have a spine that's really strong, that all these players will just come in and it would just be a mess. It would be a daycare. And it would be like they cannot compete for titles.
It'll be like a daycare.
Yeah, it'll be like a daycare of kids just running around. I don't know what is this fantasy about only academy players in a team. I saw people calling a midfield three of Rice, Gallagher, and Mount, and then a wing out Hudson-Odoi, Pulisic, and then Lukaku. Some people don't even want Lukaku, they want Broja now, and like that's like a under 19, under 22 team. And what happens when these guys is 23, 24, and they're still developing, and we invest 2-3 years in them, and then the new Declan Rice comes in. The new Gallagher pops up. What we do, we just bring them in and replace Mount and replace Gallagher because they haven't lived up. That's the thing. We need a spine to buy these young players time.
Yeah. Until they can actually take over.
Look how long it took Christensen to reach this level, Rudiger to reach this level. We need I understand why people say bringing academy players instead of a Barkley, instead of a thing and that. Yes, but at the end of the day, these players have careers too, and they need to develop because we've seen with Hudson-Odoi. It seems like he and with we seen Hudson-Odoi, we seem like an Ampadu. Ampadu is gonna be one of the biggest talents coming out. He's only 17, 16 years old. He was playing for Chelsea. But with bad loans and bad development and a use of his development, he's been stagnant for nearly 4 years now. Hudson-Odoi has been nearly stagnant for 3 years now. So I think people need to be mindful with our balance of how do we integrate young players, and then how do we get the best out of young players? Because to what extent is it the player responsibility to get that killer instinct into them? To what extent is the manager's responsibility? And how do we find that balance? Because why is other young players doing well and other players not doing well? And that's a question that we need to think about.
100%. I mean, okay, let's actually narrow this down a little bit. I was thinking about Thiago Silva, but he can hardly be part of the spine for the next, say, 2-3 seasons because he's probably got one more season, as you said, with us. After the World Cup, I can't see how Thiago Silva sticks around with us. He's probably going to leave and probably just will think about winding down his career. Rudiger is probably going to leave because he's not going to get that contract with us. Christensen's going, Azpilicueta's going. So all of a sudden, the back is absolutely busted. Mendy, good start.
Sorry.
That's what she said. Mendy is perfect. Okay, we can start from there. But in defense, I would have personally preferred Rudiger to be part of that spine. So you have your Mendy, you have your Rudiger. But now that there's no Rudiger, well, we don't have anyone. We can keep Silva for one more season and then hope that either a Koundé or a Chalobah becomes part of that leadership group and becomes that, that key component. Once again, Advaita is saying Chalobah. I mean, are we expecting Chalobah to be... he's showing leadership qualities. Don't get me wrong. He does show leadership qualities. But is he going to be a leader in another... So not this season, not next season, but the season after? He possibly could. He's getting a good season now. Yeah.
Defense is the place where you need most experience from an midfield pivot, right? Yeah. And best case scenario, we spend 100 million, David, and 80 million on Koundé, it still would not be good enough for next season due to the inexperience of that back line. That's why Juve still use Chiellini and Bonucci, even though they have this guy they invested so much money in. Because no matter how much of a huge talent you are, sometimes you just aren't mature enough to lead a club like a Juventus, to be the rock behind Juventus. And that's something like Colwell. I mean, yes, he's a real leader for a youth team. That doesn't translate to being a leader of Chelsea right now.
Oh man, I'm amazed. I'm amazed with the live chat.
We might as well get captain of the under 13s to come and captain us then. He's a captain.
Bro, honestly, I'm so amazed by the live chat. I mean, these players are good, but they're putting them as leaders. You're gonna back Leroy Colwell to lead our back line for title challenges.
Might as well get under 13 leader to come and teach a Kovacic and these guys, because at least he captained the team. Kovacic never really captained, but this under 13 guy captained for like 4 years since he was 8 years old. So might as well bring him in.
Leroy Colwell is a stupendous talent, but for him to come in, let's say next season or the season after, so let's say not next season or the season after, for him to be asked to be a leader, the kid is like what, 19, 18? Come on, man. Come on. No, Miz, I won't only talk about future, not now. I won't. Sorry, no, Miz, I won't.
I only Shingo's so worked up right now. He can't even type. I don't even know what he's typing about. No, but like the thing is, like, think about how long it took Rodri a while to become this player we're seeing now. When Cancelo now came in, everybody was making fun of him and saying he was a waste of money. And
Yeah.
with Man City, we can see it always takes a year and a half before they really grow into that. And the thing is, Man City always had a spine. They always had the De Bruynes, the David Silvas, the this and that really helped them grow. They had a spine. And the thing is, we don't have a spine. We're buying people to become our spine. So now in that year and a half, we are in chaos. Because we
Yeah.
really thought Havertz was going to come here and blow the Premier League away. But you have to realize generational talent doesn't mean once every year, Generational talent means once every 10 years or so. And it's really rare to find a Mbappe or a Messi or Ronaldo or Neymar who could,
There
or
it is.
Hazard.
Brilliant comment from Bat Knight.
Exactly. Yeah. That's just like Hazard. Foden reminds me of Hazard in the way he came in, where he
Yeah.
had about 5 to 6 top players around them. Whereas these guys came in and they only have kids around them.
Ryan, imagine if Foden was just surrounded with, I don't know, Cole Palmer and all of their youngster players that Man City have. Foden would not be the same player. Foden is Foden because of your KDB, your Bernardo Silvas, your Mahrez's, your David Silva from previous seasons. This is why Foden is Foden, because of the superstars that are surrounded amongst him. You don't create a Foden out of thin air. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a lot. I would say Mason Mount is the top quality talent we have right now, and even him
Yeah.
isn't perfect after 2 seasons. And that's
Yeah,
just
he's
the
not. He's
truth of
not.
it. I don't know any talent up there who is who is more talented than Mason. And people get mad at me for saying that, but who's better than Mason Mount coming in? I even a Gallagher I think would struggle a little bit when he comes in because it's a difference. And I think it would need time for these players to adapt. And you know what? That could completely destroy a player's psyche, having to lead Chelsea at that age. People think that they're getting an opportunity. No, but you could also destroy them that way with that. And they could never become the player they needs to be. And that's why
Absolutely
some
right,
managers
bro.
protect young players. You think some managers don't like Mourinho, yes, they don't like young players. No, but Mourinho knows better than to put the weight of that on a
Yeah.
young player.
Like honestly, Ryan, I'll be so honest with you right now. I'm worried about the loan that Billy Gilmour is having in Norwich. He
Yeah.
got abused big time for the Palace loss, where I did a video, ladies and gentlemen, you guys can see it. Norwich fans were slurring abuse to him, telling him to F off to Chelsea. He now needs to face that on a week to week basis until the season is over because he's played enough games. We can't even recall him back. Norwich is going to keep him. He's a young player, man. I'm really worried the mental state he's going to be at with this particular football club that's going to most likely get relegated. And the abuse is going to cop on a week to week basis because they don't understand the type of player he is. They don't understand the role. He plays the register role over there. They don't understand all of this stuff. It's much like the Jorginho situation. But at least with Jorginho, he was a grown adult by then. Billy Gilmour is merely a kid. So
Yeah.
you're right, Ryan, bro. You're right. That aspect of the game where if you're mentally derailed, it could have a massive impact for you down the track.
Yeah, that was Sarri was trying to say. He wasn't saying these players aren't really good enough to play for Chelsea, but they aren't ready to hold. The Chelsea badge is one of the heaviest badges in world football, I think. It's even heavier than I say we're a Man City and stuff right now. Because Man City there isn't that pressure on them. But it seems like as something goes wrong at Chelsea, the world is against you. Every newspaper is against you. Your own fans are against you. It seems so much. And that's why we really are in a dangerous position now where is it only Kovacic and Jorginho that is that senior presence going forward? And Jorginho is what, 30? So how long
Yeah.
really would he be that? For 2 years max now? So
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
really in a tough place right now. I think that we should, people say about Christensen, we should have renewed him, whether you believe he's
Yeah.
there or not. It's okay, as you said, 2 years from now we could sell him if it doesn't work out. But we should have we should keep him. Rudiger, we should have gone all out to keep him. I mean, how can you offer Willian a 2-year contract at age 32, 33, and then we'll just let Rudiger go? And as people saying, I had this cool tweet here, but I lost it. But we're going to lose these players for no money, essentially. So
Pretty
we're going to
mad,
have to
bro. It's
invest
pretty
on
mad.
5-6 players without getting that. Chelsea was known for selling players and using that same money to bring in players. Now
Yeah.
we're kind of in a position where all these players are leaving for near free, and now we're already at a loss. It's so 100-something million more at a loss at Chelsea financially due to the pandemic, and now they're expecting we to go out there and buy all these players. It's a really
It's a
I
messy
don't know how we've
situation.
gotten ourselves in this situation.
Yeah, you're right, bro. It's a messy situation. And come to think of it, if Chelsea's smart enough, they should do their level best to keep at least 2 of the 3. At least keep 2 of the 3. Somehow strike a deal. Whether it means you have to pay more, damn well pay more. Because I want to now talk about some of the players that probably needs to go, Ryan. Let me have a quick look at your private message. Which young players are worth it? And this is exactly what I wanted to talk about, man. This is exactly what I wanted to talk about.
Nice.
Luckily, you put that on private message. This is exactly what I wanted to go to now. I mean, Ryan, we've talked about the spine, which is very difficult to answer right now with players that are, you know, the players that have got contract situation. And as I said, you know, Chelsea's got to do their level best to at least try and keep 2 of them if they can. Let's talk a little bit about some of these players up front, some of the young players as well. And let's be honest about this whole situation. Let's really be honest. And once again, to the live chat, let's be honest about it. Let's start with Callum Hudson-Odoi, Ryan. Let's really talk about Callum Hudson-Odoi.
Yeah.
I'll start things off, and I want to hear what you have to say.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Callum Hudson-Odoi, Ryan. I really do. I think he's got some really, really good, a very good skill set. He's a very good talent. Obviously, the injury did hurt him. Before the injury for Sarri, his dribbling was a lot more dynamic than what it is now. His explosive pace was a lot more than what it is now. So obviously the injury, I can tell it's affected him because he's not always clear cut when it comes to dribbling. But he's still young. He's 21, and I feel like, you know, he can overcome all of this. However, there is a massive issue in regards to his shooting technique.
Yeah.
And we've seen recently how that has let him down. Final third decision making at times is not always crisp. Yes, he's a good creator. He can whip in some good crosses. Sometimes he can provide some really good assists as well. But there is quite a few things that is lacking. Thomas Tuchel doesn't seem to completely trust him. Thomas Tuchel is in a bit of a limbo where his boss, Roman, wants him to fight for titles. How can you then play a player like Callum, who's going to screw up monumentally the way he did yesterday? And at the same time, is it fair to have a player like Callum get all that responsibility to, chase for the title? I don't know. I'm a bit mixed. I feel like I wouldn't mind keeping him in the squad as a rotational, but if he's a rotational, how does he develop? I'm really lost with this particular player because Thomas Tuchel can't afford to play him 10, 15 games in a row because of the inconsistency of this particular player. I mean, Ryan, how do you feel about Callum?
Yeah, I mean, I tweeted that yesterday, and I was trolling a lot on Twitter yesterday, so I just wanted to laugh. But I tweeted this seriously though, that when I watch wingers differently and attacking midfielders differently when it comes to talent, right?
Yeah.
I always believe that there's a big career changing injury in the trajectory of every attacker, every winger. And I try to filter my talent through the lens of if this person loses his ability to run quickly, his pace, his dribbling, this and that, what can he offer otherwise, right?
Yeah.
And for example, Pulisic, when it comes to we've seen with Pulisic and Hudson, where after the injuries, they could not, before they would take on players nearly 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Now, due to the injuries, it could be advice from their trainers too, and the
Maybe.
agents saying
Maybe.
do not
Do
take
not
on players as
overexert. Do not
much.
overexert.
Exactly. Unlike Kante, he just comes on and say, "Bro, f all that. I go 100% this night. This is the last 90 of my life.
I'm
I
going
don't give a
100
shit."
kilometers an
Yeah,
hour.
yeah. Um, but I understand that could be the case. And now how I analyze these players is what can they bring, or what qualities they possess outside of the dribbling, outside of the taking on players, outside of the individuality, especially in a possession-based team against low blocks in tiny spaces where you need more football and IQ. To work together with your teammates is not as individualistic as counter-attacking. And when
Yeah.
I think about Hudson-Odoi, I won't get into Pulisic, we'll get to him. So when I think about Hudson-Odoi, is that I see a player that raises his head up. And that's very rare to see in a young
True.
English winger for me. We've seen all these young English wingers with flair, and by the time they age 24, 25, they're just pace merchants who can score a goal now and then and become decent Premier League players. When I see Hudson-Odoi at age 21, is
Yeah.
when I
Yep.
see Hudson-Odoi at age 21 now, I see the raw materials. I'm not saying the end products, but I'm saying the raw materials of qualities outside of his pace,
Yeah.
outside of his dribbling, which is very positive for me. Especially his passes, not his crosses only, but his horizontal short passes, his vertical short passes. I can see a player that's aware of his surroundings, aware of his teammates, and not only that, but defenders on his shoulder. And to do that simultaneously is a very impressive quality in a young player, as opposed to other wingers now who would not have that awareness and they would go and do it on their own. And they'll try to do it on their own. And I think that we can build from there with Callum, that he has a footballing IQ that I don't think that many young players have as a winger. And I think we can do something with him. Maybe the Chelsea badge is too heavy for him right now to carry as a starter, but we can develop him into something new. I'd love to see him work on his finishing, his technique, this and that. But as a raw materials thing, I think that he is there. The only problem I have is that players like Pulisic and Hudson-Odoi, they have the mentality as if they are $1 million and they need to start every game. But when given the chance, they are nowhere close to the level needed to challenge for a title. Because if you
Yeah.
hear Pulisic during interviews, when he's not playing, he would always have this grim attitude that I want to play every game, I want to play every minute.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
one thing to have a competitive nature. It's the next thing to be delusional and feel that you owe the minutes, right? And I think
But
that what
but you
Pulisic,
know what, Ryan? But you know what? These players will say, "But I need to stay positive. I need to have the
yeah,
confidence. I'm not going to
yeah,
go
every
out there
player
and say
needs to want to
I don't
play.
cut out for this." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and the thing is, it's that simply enough that these players are not at that level yet, but they do have the raw materials. The difference with Hudson though versus a Pulisic, which we'll get into later, is that I've seen a progression in Hudson though given an Achilles injury, which is worse than an ACL injury. And
Yeah.
that's very tough, especially for somebody like uh, an attacker who depends so much on power and pace. Same thing when I was thinking about Loftus-Cheek. If he loses that power, what ability does he have? Does he have the passing? Does he have the vision? Does he have to work around his injury?
Not
And that's
really.
why I like that we need players who can. And with Hazard, I was thinking about that too. How can he work around losing that pace? But let's go back to Hudson-Odoi. um, I've seen an improvement in his game over the last 2 years from when he got his injury to now. Whether it's slow or what, at least it's moving an upward trajectory. Yes, it's going to have peaks and troughs, but I'm seeing an improvement. However, with some of our players, I have not seen an improvement. Some of them have gotten worse, and some of them have remained stagnant for 1, 2, 3 years. And I think that out of all our attackers, I think Hudson-Odoi is one of them that I would want to invest in still.
Do you know what? I agree with you. I mean, yesterday's situation, Ryan, was mad. I wish he just had such a bad game. But the one before that against Aston Villa, I thought he was quite decent. 3 goal involvements. The work rate was good. Defensively, he was looking good. And I said it that if there was one young player that I wanted to invest in Chelsea, I'd probably invest in Callum. But I can't rely on Callum to be driving for a title run. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
100%.
as you said, the badge is too heavy. So what does that mean, Ryan? Is he a rotational player? Like he's not going to be happy at 120,000 K per week. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like he's already on some handsome money per week. He probably wants to play every single week. So
yeah, and thing is, he seems like somebody who, if he's not playing every game, that his moral gets down.
Yep.
And that's the difference between like a Foden. He wouldn't play some games, but he would work his way up to play those key games. Whereas
Yeah.
Hudson, though, if he's missing a few or Pulisic is missing, it seems like they're down. I wouldn't say they're spoiled or whatever, but they're down.
Yeah.
When they don't
This
play,
comment
which
here
is a
from Ray Allen.
problem.
I'd rather invest in Cho than Pulisic and Timo Werner. Yeah, absolutely agree. Let's talk a little bit about Christian Pulisic now, Ryan. Where do I even start, man?
I love how
He's
we had
another
outside
player.
conversations on these players, and it's so funny. And
I mean, Christian Pulisic is once again, Ryan, another player that is supremely talented, but it seems like he can't play in his position right now. It seems like he's not an option in his position. He's more of an option if we don't have an option as a striker. He's more of an option when we don't have an option in the right wing back.
yeah,
For me, that kind of tells me you're surplus to requirements. You are not an option in your position that you prefer to play. That is alarm bells for me saying, why do I then have you? Because I don't want you as a striker and I don't want you as a right wing back. Then why do I want you? I'm this is Christian Pulisic's third season. Injury has absolutely ruined his Chelsea career. But I'm at a situation, Ryan, where I don't think Thomas Tuchel wants him to be the left inside forward because he seems to be favouring either Mason Mount, Timo Werner, Callum Hudson-Odoi, and then he uses Pulisic as a utility player. And I'd rather Thomas Tuchel buy a specialist as opposed to a utility player. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree completely. I seem like when I watch Pulisic play, it's the same player, even less of a player that I saw when he now came in. I feel like I'm still watching that 18-year-old, that 19-year-old play, which is a tough one. I know injuries is a huge reason for that, but who is to blame for that? Not anybody else, right? Injuries. And I feel that you're right. I wouldn't be surprised if he would rather Chalobah at left wing instead of Pulisic, to be honest. I would see Chalobah left wing. But I think with Pulisic is that over the years, as I said, I always look for what people could offer outside of their physical capabilities, their pace, their dribbling, this and that. And when I think about Pulisic is that this guy, he rarely has his head up.
Oh, that's the biggest issue. When he dribbles, he looks down. He looks at the ground.
Yeah.
He doesn't look
He
up.
doesn't find those passes. And even the rare occasions when he do see the passes, he doesn't pull them off.
Yeah.
And that's a huge problem, especially in a possession-based team. I have no doubt he could do that in Dortmund and counter-attack into space or Leipzig or wherever, or even a lower Premier League team. But when you're a possession-based team, when you're challenging for top titles and teams park the bus on you, you need football IQ players, pass and move, get
Yeah.
into space, play in tight spaces, shoot and score. Work together with your teammates, like a player like Pedro. That's the kind of
Yeah.
winger, when I think about the perfect winger. Could play wide, could drop deep, could press, could link up with other players, could run in behind, could score. And he has a football IQ where he can bounce off other players and read the play. And I
It's
feel
come
that
from the
Pulisic just
Barcelona
have that.
academy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and Pulisic is the leader for US national team. Okay, but Pulisic is playing against Trinidad and Tobago, and I could say, I mean, I'm from Trinidad, and that is, I could play against Trinidad. You know what I mean? The
Hey,
thing
don't
is,
disregard Panama, bro. Panama's a good team, man.
yeah. But CONCACAF level is so low, except barring Mexico. And it's like,
But I'm loving Ray Allen, by the way. This guy's coming up with some comments today. We need to find a younger version of Pedro. People
they
don't
don't make
understand how
players like that
underrated
anymore.
Pedro is, man. His
What a
movement was
player!
quality.
That's my perfect winger there. People always laugh at me when I say it, but Pedro is my perfect winger. Even more so than Eden Hazard or so. When it comes to, not saying he's better than him, obviously not. Hazard is one of the best ever. But Pedro, when I think about possession-based football, 1-2, that guy, man, incredible. Can do everything. And but this is not the Pedro analysis here. This is back to
Getting back to
Pulisic.
Pulisic.
Miss, I would like you to view that lens too. What can they offer outside of their youthful pace, their youthful dribbling? And I think, as we see now, with the fear behind injuries, they've kind of lost that youthful delusion. Because we could see what Harvey Field, he had that youthful delusion. He'd okay, I go in there, I'm gonna run in. But when injuries start to plague you, you lose that. And we've seen that Callum has lost it to an extent and Pulisic has lost it to an extent. So what do these guys offer other than that? Is it the passing? Is it the vision? Is it how they could link play? Is it the pressing? When I think about it, for Pulisic, those other qualities is not as strong. And that's this man asking answers here. That's exactly why, because Callum Hudson was 2 years younger and is above his, even with a career-threatening Achilles injuries, is higher in his development than Pulisic is 23. So you basically ask an answer there. And yeah, Miz, I'd just like to know what you think about that too.
This
About
particular
Pulisic.
comment, Pulisic, 23. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Ryan. I feel like there's a lot. Okay, I'm going to break it down very honestly. This whole topic is about time to be honest about all Chelsea matters, right?
Yeah.
Christian Pulisic is a great dribbler, has at times great IQ in terms of moving into the box in good areas and scoring goals.
Yeah.
But his overall facets, his dribbling is good, but it's no good if you're going to look down. You have to look up. Christian Pulisic is a kind of a player. If he just looked up, he would be bagging 10 to 15 assists a season. If he just looked up and dribbled. There was a case this particular match against Brighton in the first 5 minutes where he saw Callum Hudson-Odoi free on the left side, but for some reason he held on to the ball. Whether he didn't notice because he was dribbling looking down, or whether he didn't know he's not that clinical when it comes to final third decision making. So for me, Christian Pulisic, he's not the complete package. I don't care if he's 23. Chelsea Football Club needs better.
Exactly.
What Christian Pulisic gave us post the lockdown, the first lockdown, if you guys remember Frank Lampard's season, that's the Christian Pulisic that was unbelievable. But that seems like that was a one-off. That was like a one-hit wonder. Do you guys remember, some of the singers, the one-hit wonders? You think, wow, whatever happened to that artist? Yeah, one-hit wonder happened to them. It was just the one song that they sang, and then people play that forever. Christian Pulisic is like that. Everyone keeps talking about that post-lockdown Frank Lampard first season. Since then, He's never been able to replicate that. Callum Hudson-Odoi, however, when he dribbles, he looks up. He has created chances. His crossing is better. Christian Pulisic, I don't think his crossing is better than Callum Hudson-Odoi's. Callum Hudson-Odoi's movement is probably in the same caliber of Pulisic anyway.
His strength and physicality is there too.
Yeah, the physicality is there too. The work rate is there too. Callum playing in the right wing back has learnt the work rate side of things, the defensive side of things as well. It's not at the best peak, but still, it's okay. But the biggest issue Callum has is his shooting and his confidence in front of goal.
Yeah.
Whereas Pulisic, he probably scores more often if he gets into those situations. The issue with Pulisic is he doesn't get into those situations enough. Now, you can say because of where he plays. So, but I feel Callum being 21, and if he gets coached by Thomas Tuchel properly, he could overcome that shooting, technique situation, because Callum gets himself in those situations a lot. So that's a plus point. At least he gets into those areas. It's just now a matter of being able to put those chances away. If you guys remember Raheem Sterling for Liverpool, he was so erratic. He had pace, he had the robustness, but he was erratic in front of goals. He was just so floppy. He goes to Man City, and under Pep Guardiola's guidance, he's now become a proper lethal weapon up front.
Yeah.
So I've got no reason that Callum couldn't be that. With Pulisic, maybe he can, but what are we persevering? Is he going to be a permanent left inside forward, or are we going to be investing on Callum? I would be investing on Callum. I feel like his skill set is a lot more towards what Thomas Tuchel requires. But that's my opinion on that matter, man.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what you say here. And that's the thing about young players. How do we decipher who do we stick with and persevere with? And how do we decipher world-class potential versus good potential? Because at the end of the day, we have an influx of young players that's going to come in. We're going to have Gallagher, we're going to have Gilmore, we're going to have Ampadu, we're going to have Broja, we're going to have even Harvey Vale and those guys coming in. We're going to have all these new young players coming in. And Chelsea Cobham is a machine. He'll just keep on coming, these young players. There's no way that all these players are going to live up to their potential or make it at Chelsea. Yeah. Right? And there's and some of them, the ones who make it, might need to be like a Ryan Bertrand and go to other club and end up performing well and go into different clubs, or like a Tomori, right? And go into different clubs and making the name there. So the thing is, Chelsea needs to really decipher which is the young talents they're going to persevere with from Cobham. And the thing is, it's like, if you have Cobham, which is such a good academy that costs you $0 in transfer, why buy somebody who is just as good as your academy players for $60 million on a 6-year contract?
It doesn't make sense.
Because
it doesn't make sense.
Because the kind of caliber Pulisic is, he's on the same level of our academy graduates, who is $0, and Pulisic is on a high salary also. So that's like kind of my thing. It's like, yeah, we love all these young players we're talking about from foreign countries, all the ones people mention in the comments, but how better are they than our academy graduates? Are they worth the £50 million and 200 per week, where we have to wait 2 to 3 years to get the best out of them and persevere with them? Would we rather persevere with people who are free from our academy and then use that 50, 60 on mature world-class talents from the age 24 to 28?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And that's what I'm really considering a long-term plan from our board. I think that sometimes why invest in Havertz is a different case for me. I think he has the
No,
potential
I
to
was
be one
gonna
of the.
talk about Havertz now. I really
I
was.
think he has the potential to be one of the very best in the world, one of the best attackers in the world. That's different. I do not think Pulisic has the potential to be one of the best in the world. And even when he was at Dortmund, even when he is a thing. And that's the difference between the two, I think. And that's why I would be okay to investing into Havertz. But then again, I wouldn't be surprised when Havertz start getting good, he leaves us and go for free. So it'll be like we persevere for nothing.
Let's talk a little bit about Havertz now, Ryan. I mean, in recent times, I've actually liked what he's done. He's become more tenacious. Work rate is a lot better. Presses well, and is getting stuck in. But it seems like his goals have dried out all of a sudden. Assist. The other thing with Havertz is he's another player in front of goals. He's not clinical, Ryan. He doesn't seem to lace the shot like he does. He seems to always do cute things, chip the keeper, go around the keeper. Do all these cutesy little moves. Whereas I just want him to pick a spot and drill that shot in. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, stop being so cute about it and actually be clinical. But how do you picture Havertz? What is he, Ryan? Like, is he a striker? Is he a second striker? Is he a midfielder? Is he a cam? Is he a winger? What is he, Ryan?
Yeah. By the way, Limitless, by the way, I saw your comment about academy players not ready. If you listen to us, we were talking about academy graduates here. We're not talking about academy players coming in. We're talking about academy graduates, people who've already graduated from the academy, who's already on loan coming into the team. Well, we can invest on them that will cost $0 instead of buying a 60 million 20-year-old who needs 3 years to reach good quality. Yeah, but back to Havertz. I feel like Havertz, he's been here a year and a half now. A year and a half now,
Year and a
probably.
half. Yeah.
I've seen huge improvement in him, especially this season. I think last season we've start seeing a calmness on the ball, a bit more football and IQ, and even in the second half of last season, I don't know what is with this brother in February, but from February, it always seemed like he scores a lot of goals throughout his whole career. It's like Hurricane in August. Like he just doesn't score in August, and then from October, boom, Hurricane. Or we know he's in the Golden Boot race. And like Pep in August, Pep is always like 5th in August or something, and then in December he already won the title. I think yeah, it's kind of like the same with Havertz, but I think that back to on his qualities, I think he's really developed as a Premier League player. I think he seemed to keep that nonchalance about him and that way he just glides through the game without even being recognized while still developing his strength, his ruggedness. I would see him rushing into players, dropping players, and he really improved his physical aspect. And I think his footballing IQ is really improving too. His footballing IQ is already high. His ability to find players, be aware of his surroundings, one touch playing, this and that. I think the difference with his finishing now is before and but in Leverkusen, it's counter-attacking against high lines. So, obviously you would have time and space to cut in, to chip and this and that. But when you're playing against low blocks, it's make up your mind and shoot, or else somebody will close you down or you'll get a deflection. And I think that's a lot with these young players we have there. Why you not thinking anything about Chouameni like Havertz? Yo, Shingo, are you like Chouameni uncle or something who just really wants him to come to Chelsea?
Shingo,
Like, we ain't even
Shingo,
talking
bro.
about Chouameni here.
Shingo, bro.
Imagine
I've got
it's like
so much
Chouameni
respect
family
for
here
you.
from France just like dropping comments there.
Yeah, Shingo, I've got so much respect for you, but man, you need to relax a little bit about Shermani. I don't know why you're getting so mad. I mean, Ryan, what's going on? He seems to be very upset with you about the whole Shermani situation. What happened?
No, all I'm just saying is that I want Chouameni to be molded into a top talent. I don't want him to take that responsibility of being our top attacker, and that's why I'm so happy with Havertz too. That now he has a Lukaku to play alongside. He's not the main man on top, and with that we'll see more development. Same thing with Chouameni. I think as opposed to being a left striker or right striker, you could share your workload, but to be a register at age 21 in the Premier League alone, same thing goes for whoever you want to put there, Gilmore, this and that, is very tough. Even with an experienced campaigner like Jorginho to come in, it took him about 2 years to actually be really good at that. Rodri, it took a 1 year and a half to get good at that position. That position is a bit more demanding than a winger or wing back or this and that, because you're actually the glue of the team there. And that's why I'm so hesitant about Tchouaméni. I would love him to come at Chelsea, but I'm just not ready to put that badge on him to be a lone DM in a club like Chelsea in the Premier League at age 21.
I think that's a very good logical response. I'm not really sure, Shingo, why you're so upset. Like, this is what I mean.
Yeah.
Sometimes, the fans, like, what are you getting upset about? It's just different perspectives, man.
You want to make everybody upset now? With that being said, Shingo, I'm team Declan Rice, bro. Get that guy in at Chelsea. 100 mil, bro.
By the way,
100 mil. Let's
S.
get
Roy
him.
would love that. S. Roy is Team Declan Rice, so you're gonna keep
And-
him happy.
That's the kind of thing. I am not opposed to getting Premier League proven young talents, because we've seen like Smith Rowe and Saka and these guys who raised up in the English system, Rich James to Mason Mount. They could adapt more to the Premier League as opposed to a foreign young player. To me, if I'm going for foreign players, I would rather them be proven. You understand?
Yeah, absolutely,
And
man. Absolutely. If I'm going for foreign players, why am I going for youngsters?
exactly.
Like, I'd rather look at youngsters from my academy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then the thing is,
This has always been well, not always, in recent times, actually, Ryan, that I've got a lot of respect for the Chelsea Academy, man. I really do now. I have immense respect. And I've come to a conclusion that I rather get only world-class players if I don't have an answer for it in the academy. I'm not going to go out there in La Masia or in Germany to get another youngster and then hope that they come good in about 4 seasons. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I rather go to our academy, find the best. If there's no if there's no answer there, then go to the market and get myself the best of the best. Do you know what I mean?
But
And-
back
and-
to what you. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. No.
No,
I want to hear what you have to say. Yeah.
I was just going to say, just to add to that, the best of the best doesn't necessarily mean get me 100 million or 200 million. It could mean those gems, 40 million gems, 50 million gems. Do you know what I mean?
And that
Doesn't
comes to our
necessarily
scouting.
mean.
Why
Yeah.
do we always scout the most expensive, overrated players out there when Man City could just go and find players that are unique to them, who Pep actually
Bro,
wants,
how much
and
was
he would
Bernardo
make them
Silva?
stars?
How much was
Bernardo
Bernardo
Silva,
Silva?
Rodri, this and that. Like, they found talents that
Yeah.
Pep personally saw something in them. Pep and his team saw something in them that they could raise the quality of. And that's why I want Tuchel to have more say in the transfers that he wants. And I feel like when Lampard, I think this was the first time Lampard was managing a top club. So any good name that pops up, Lampard was like, hell yeah, I want that. That's our attacking player. But the thing is, he didn't have the depth of
Give me a Kai
tactical.
Havertz. Give me a Timo Werner. Give me
Yeah.
Ziyech as well. Oh, yeah, by the way, give me Pulisic too. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And then let's sign Kovacic too on a
Yes,
permanent.
Kovacic as well.
Yeah, but I just want to ask you a question on Havertz. You asked me, like, before we move on to our boy, I think we need to talk about Timo before this thing wraps up, because Timo is a big talking point. But no, with Havertz, a lot of people ask me what's the difference between a Havertz and other young talent. The thing is, there's not much difference. There's not much difference. The thing is, you can't pick out a wrong to justify doing a next wrong. You can't bring in Havertz at 19, 20, 21-year-old to lead Chelsea, and it doesn't work out for a year and a half, and then say, oh, what we did for Havertz, why can't we do it for Tchouaméni? Well, that's exactly why we can't go and do it again for Tchouaméni, because it doesn't work. We need to be patient. We need to have them alongside not only senior players, but very good senior players. Not only senior players. And my boy S. Roy say, bruh, we did so much streams on Jorginho tactical analysis. They could go. We'll post the link somewhere one day. But yeah, I was just wondering, how do you differentiate between who you think is worth keeping and who you think we should leave? Second thing, how do you differentiate with the young academy graduates who is worth bringing in and who is worth cashing in on? Because
Yeah.
there is some academy graduates we could cash in on, because not all of them are going to make it, and that's the sad truth.
Yeah.
So
In order to answer that, you obviously have to look at how the current manager, is playing, the philosophy, and what sort of skill set they require. I feel like Thomas Tuchel's system requires a lot of technical players, Ryan. It requires players that are able to be, have that one-touch passing, the vision, quick thinking, quick movement. And for me, that's fundamental, first up. So when I think about, say, for example, Timo Werner, he's not the most technical player out there. So straight away, it gives me a feeling, well, this player is not going to be able to fit into Thomas Tuchel's system seamlessly. We will always have to compensate to fit him in. I look at a player like, for example, let's say Alonso on the left side when Chilwell is injured. This player is simply not fit enough to give us what Thomas Tuchel requires. Then I look at a player like, say, for example, Harvey Vale against Brentford. The 60 minutes I saw, he was everything that Thomas Tuchel can work on. I'm not advocating that he needs to be starting straight away, but he was technical. He had the passing ability. He was quick in terms of thinking, very fast in movement, had the pace as well. So that's how I look at what the manager needs. For example, for let's say for someone like Jose Mourinho, he likes to play on the counter. He probably would like he probably might appreciate a player like Timo Werner.
yeah.
So
And somebody asked you here, Miss, when last you see a Chelsea attacker perform a touch pass or flick? Well, the thing is, that's the exact problem. We can't have one player want to perform like that and next one don't. It's a system. To play touch, pass. You need to have players around that player. It needs to be organized. It can't just be unorganized chaos and hoping that we can gel into something formidable. So, next thing with Tuchel, I've watched a lot of his teams and they do play one-touch fluid football. It's like a mixture, I would say, of Pep and Klopp. It's not only heavy metal football, this and that, direct. It's a lot of having possession. It's really possession based, kicking it from side to side, being patient with your attacks, being patient with your movements. And Tuchel, we are really lucky to have him. They watch his best PSG season. Watch the type of football they play. Yes, it's in League One, but just watch it. It's really, really good football. And that's what he's trying to do with us. He's really trying to do with us. He just needs his players to come in. But I think we're kind of not, like, we're so luxurious to have the talents we have. It's kind of killing us at the end of the day. I feel like
100%.
we just went out there and we brought in so much academy players and bought so much players. Now it's kind of like there's too much players and each of them fits, as you said, they don't fit us. I would be okay with having a bunch of players fit in a certain philosophy, but we have mixed players fitting different philosophies out there. We have some players suited to counter attack. We have some players suited to possession base. We have some players suited to up and down, box to box, and it's like now we're trying to have a possession based philosophy, and it's like some players don't meet the requirements. Like Werner, for one of them, it's like is he good in a possession-based team against high
He's
lines?
not. He's not.
He's not.
His skill set is simply not there for a possession-based footballing team.
And it's not because of his stature or strength or anything. It's just because of his technical ability. He's not able
Yeah.
to dribble past players, to do those one-touch passes, to link up with
Timo
players.
Werner
This and
would
that.
never be a City player. He would never be a Pep
Yeah.
Guardiola player.
And I don't know how he would be in Bayern either, because watch the quality and class of the wingers in Bayern. Their IQ and technical ability is above and beyond.
I guess he's got Nagelsmann there, and Nagelsmann is his ex-manager. So, but it's a good point. It's a good point. Like one wonders how's he going to fit in Bayern? Bayern plays some really good one-touch football. So, no,
But then again,
it's
these problems
interesting.
shouldn't be unexpected, because now we have we want this manager as a long-term manager, and we have. And the thing is, I think Chelsea should start thinking post Tuchel also. Let's be realistic here. We should start thinking about what philosophy does Chelsea want to have. You know what I mean? As I said, Man
100%.
City had a philosophy from Mancini to Pellegrini to Pep, right? Chelsea had a philosophy from Mourinho to wherever, which is mostly counter-attacking football, right? To Ancelotti, to this and that. Despite scoring a lot of goals, there was counter-attacking, non-possession-based football. We changed that with Sarri, Lampard, and Tuchel. But now we have to stamp that authority on it, because we still have Mourinho and Conte players here. There are more defensive counter-attacking players mixed with senseless signings and then some smart signings. So now, how do we plan, despite manager, to have a philosophy? If it is attacking football they want, we need to have a philosophy and spine there to kind of have that.
This is where you need a solid footballing director. This is
like
why
a Ragnick.
Exactly, and not just that. I don't know if you know the name of the Liverpool director that just left them. I think his name is something Edward, or I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong. But anyway, Liverpool, when Klopp came in, they brought in a new director of football, right? And together, Michael Edwards, that's it, Michael Edwards, that's the one. He just recently left Liverpool. I don't know where he's gone, but yeah, he left Liverpool. He brought in, the likes of your Salahs, your Manes, and whatnot. And they developed a philosophy with Jurgen Klopp, and they stuck to it. They weren't like Roman, that they needed to compete for title immediately. They knew that if they can embed a particular philosophy, and once that's embedded with the right players then coming through, that they were going to be challenging for the title for years to come. So they knew that they needed to sacrifice maybe a couple of seasons before they can click into gears and then challenge forever. But we need to get into that level. Like, it seems like our football club is not in that level to sacrifice 2 years to embed a particular philosophy, get a footballing director like your Ragnick, Michael Edwards and the likes. Because at the end of the day, I don't know, what is Peter Cech at the moment? Is he a technical director or something like that? Or I don't know if he's like someone who's philosophical. How does Chelsea Football Club want to play football?
I mean,
Not just under Thomas Tuchel,
but that's not surprising.
Yeah.
He got a good goalkeeper, but that's not surprising, because he is a goalkeeper. And that's why I was so interested. What if we actually got Ragnick in that consultancy role, and then we had Tuchel as a manager? Imagine that. A clear, concise philosophy, and then somewhere along the line, Nagelsmann or something replace Tuchel, like 5-6 years from now. And we have a clear, concise way of playing football. Because when Klopp leaves, Gerrard is going to take over one day, and they will still have that philosophy. They'll still have that thing. When Pep leaves in a year or two, a next attacking manager is going to come in, a really good one.
Probably going to be Ten Hag. Most likely it might be Ten Hag.
Exactly, and it's going to be like that. I think with Chelsea, we are in a transition, but I think we've shot ourselves in the foot with buying so much players nonsensically without a clear plan. Together with our academy doing so well now, it's like we just have this mixtures of different
Ryan, it's almost as if
types
we
of
need a
players.
reset. It's almost as if we just
Yeah,
need to say, stop. Stop for a second. We are not going to be just mad and get Havertz, Timo Werner, Ziyech, Pulisic, Saul. Stop. Let's stop. Let's sit down. How do we want to play? What is required? Like, for example, Ryan, it seems like Thomas Tuchel, it makes complete sense. He was screaming for wingbacks in summer. Instead, we got him Saul.
yeah, that's really that's we always said wing back was someone that's going to give us trouble if Chilwell or James got injured, and that's exactly what happened. I want to read a tweet here, right, about that same thing, right? It was from
Yeah.
PYS, right? Let me just pull out up real quick, just getting it right here. He tweeted this yesterday about what he was like harsh truths. We need a strong
Yeah, I think I
midfielder,
saw
two or
that.
three
I think I
wide
saw that.
forwards, two
Yeah.
CBs, LW starter, RW cover. This is 8 players when you check it.
Do
This
you want
would
to bring
get
it
us
up, bro?
into
Do you want to put it
six.
in the screen? Can you share your screen?
I'm doing it on my phone. But yeah, I
Let,
could bring it on my
let me share. Let me.
screen.
Maybe I
Yeah,
can
you do.
share it. I'll do it.
But
I'll do it.
it's pretty recent in his tweets, so you'll get it easy.
Yeah, no, I
But
know which one you're talking about, bro. I've seen
that's
this one.
that's
It
eight
was bang on. It
players.
was bang on, like proper bang on tweet. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Is this the one? Here's some harsh truths.
Yeah.
And there was another tweet that I liked about from him, which I'll share as well. Let's bring this out first. You want to read it through, Ryan?
Yeah, no. I mean, I agree on this. We need these things here. But my problem is how we go about it. I
Yeah.
mean, 8 players in one window or 2 windows could be
No
catastrophic
chance.
given that we still have
Yeah.
7 players trying to fit in and find their foot.
Yeah.
Now we
Yeah.
have like 13 players that even know what you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like at the end of the day, we need to decide in these positions here who is worth keeping at Chelsea and who is really not. At the end of
Yeah.
the day, we say 2 to 3 wide forwards. That's insane when we could still count on Mount. We could still think about Hudson, though we have Havertz. And then, well, Werner and Ziyech and Pulisic, it's up for debate on whether what we do with them. But at the end of the day, you don't need 2 to 3. We can't replace all our forwards. A strong midfielder, that's reasonable, right? Because we have
Yeah.
2 injury-prone Kovacic and thing, and Jorginho is starting to get enter his 30s, and he can't have that load on his own.
That's
Two
a must.
CBs, LCB and RCB. This sounds bad, but at the end of the day, we got ourselves into this position. How on earth we could let Christensen, Rudiger, and then have 37-year-old Silva and all that
100%.
thing go?
100%.
How did we knew Silva is not going to last? How on earth we could let go our rest of our back three while we have a midfielder and Chaloba filling in our back three, and now people are putting in first choice CB in our back four with Colwell? How are we allowing people to think Colwell and Chaloba could be in our back four for us? That's how bad things are getting at Chelsea.
Yeah.
LW or left wing back starter. Yes, we need our due to Chill and RWB cover. Yes, we need our due to RSP. But the thing is, this process was started in the summer. Why do we still have RSP as right wing back cover when he was doing so well at RCB? Now we have RSP flip flopping around. Left wing back starter. At the end of the day, Alonso shouldn't have been at Chelsea. We need a like for like.
Correct.
Even with Chilwell there, why not get in like a Matson or somebody who can get experience, and in case Chilwell gets injured, it could be we keep the same tactics because it's similar qualities. CBs rather went through that already. Forwards already went through that.
What was the thought process when it seemed like Thomas Tuchel really wanted Hakimi? Obviously, we couldn't get him, and at the end, Hakimi wanted PSG. Fair enough, fine. But what was the thought process when we sold Tino Livramento? Did we not know the profile of this player who can play as a right wing back and left wing back?
Exactly.
And look at him now shining in Southampton. And if we want him back, we can only get him back 2 years after. That too with a 43 million buyback clause. Our own
Yeah, and
player, we're buying him back for 43 million.
a lot of players said that these players wanted to leave, but I feel they wanted to leave because they were not convinced. And it should have somebody at Chelsea that trying to convince these players.
See,
These
again,
young players
Jensen
especially.
Jensen saying Livermore wanted to leave. Yes, there is the component of him wanting to leave, but is what Ryan is saying. I don't think they were convinced of being at Chelsea.
He had to compete with Aspi and Rich James. Club captain, and a real good talent.
Exactly.
That's why he left.
That's why he left. You need to be bold and say, Aspi, you're probably not going to get enough game time anymore.
Aspi should be at RCB.
Yeah, or you're an RCB. You're going to be backup RCB.
Yeah. Malang Sarr, how on earth did he make it at Chelsea? I don't know where planning and stuff went into that. Why we even sign him in the first place? It's like we just make these weird signings and just do them for doing its sake. Hey, I know we could talk about this forever, but I'm gonna ask you a question. It's a fun one, right? It's a fun one. Kepa, do you think the remontada is in for Kepa? What if this guy just shows up like sorry Kepa? Do you think he can possibly
get out of here, bro?
with Mendy showing a lack of confidence, especially in his build-up play? He's doing, even when he's punching out the ball too. He didn't had a few times yesterday he could have caught the ball and he's punching out.
Bro, he went long, bro. A lot of the times he went long.
His short passes was off. He didn't rush in for the ball when he was rushing for the ball with that Christensen error there. Do you think Kepa? How long is AFCON? How long of a period is that?
If apparently Mendy, well, who does Mendy play for? Is it Senegal?
Yeah.
So if Senegal doesn't qualify for the after the group stage, then it's 2 matches or something. And then if they qualify for after the group stage, which is quarterfinals, could possibly be a month. But if it's just up to 2 games, then it could really be just 2 weeks.
Yeah. Nah, I'm just saying it's an interesting prospect. I'd really like to see him take his opportunity. But yeah, that was a hell of fun thing I put in there.
I think with Kepa, look, yeah, he's found a bit of form under Thomas Tuchel, but there is some clear deficiencies in terms of his height is a bit of an issue. It's not a coincidence, Ryan, that opposition teams like to have a long-range pop as soon as they see him. And more times than none, he gets beat. And, there comes a point where you need to start asking yourself, well, how come they didn't do that with Mendy? Because his reach is a bit more than Kepa, I suppose. So, no, he's doing good, and I'm very happy that he's going to be the backup, which is fine. I think Mendy's the number one.
Even if he does well this season, you know how much his price tag is going to increase? We could get our price tag up to about 40 if he does really well and he's competing with Mendy.
Yeah, true. We do.
We already losing all our main players for free. We might as well get some money off of Kepa,
See, that's another one, man. Some mad business that's been done. I know Courtois left us in a bit of a mud, but look at this tweet from PYS. 72 million backup goalkeeper, 72 million forward who's still yet to show consistency. 60 million winger. That's Havertz, yeah. 60 million winger who's injury prone and now wing back, which is Pulisic. 33 million winger who's a moments player, Ziyech. 0 by hefty wages and loan fee for a failed midfielder and failed wingback, Saul. 24 million for a donkey left wingback who can't run. To apologize for the word donkey there. It's PYS's tweet. Apologizing on behalf of him. He's talking about Alonso there. What is the thought process when you see this, Ryan? What is the thought process when they're deciding these transfers? What are they thinking? I don't think they are thinking.
60 million winger who is injury prone. This was a reaction to Hazard leaving. That's pure sick. When we lose big players, we just do some wrong signings, panic buy signings. Really, that's why I feel like with Rudiger leave, we would probably overpay for a left centre back that is not worth that money, and we'll be in the same situation. 72 million for, I don't really agree on that. I think Havertz will get there, but again, the thing is, the market is so crazy now because when you pay 72 million, you expect this person to be the face of your team, to spearhead your
Bro,
team
you
for
expect that
titles.
person to just come in and take over.
And that's just the way of the market, and he is actually a victim of his talent, to be honest. That is the craziness of this market, to be honest. Same thing with Sancho, he is like 90 something on a cheap, because originally they wanted 120 for him, but you can see he's struggling at the Premier League level now. That's crazy. Like, imagine if Mount was playing in Bundesliga. This might be like 160 million or some shit. Like, think about it. It's just crazy how much this market is. But yeah, back to this tweet here. 72 million for a backup goalkeeper. Yeah, that was to replace, as again, main player Courtois leave. We went and scouted Kepa, who had deficiencies in his stats even before Chelsea, with long shots and this and that, and save percentages. And we spent 72 million on a 7-year contract to replace Courtois because we allowed Courtois to leave for nearly nothing. You know what I mean? 72 million forward. We didn't have a striker for years, basically, since Costa. We went and did something like that. 60 million winger. We lost Hazard. We went and got a 20-year-old who's injury prone from Dortmund on 60 million and a high salary for 6 years. Yeah, it's crazy. Who's the 33 million winger? Ziyech.
Ziyech, bro.
I don't really have a problem with Ziyech with that price tag because for 33 million, he was actually a promising signing. It just things didn't work out for him. But yeah, 33 million, not a big deal to be honest, for his caliber of what we thought he could have been.
Do you know what I feel about these players from Ajax? Tell me one Ajax player that have left and actually done well elsewhere. I feel like they're so much system oriented for that Ajax style. When they actually separate away from it and go to other teams, they find it very difficult to fit in because
Man said Suarez. I mean, he talking about the golden generation of Ajax from 2018-19, not like 2001.
No, yeah. Oh, someone says Suarez. No, not Suarez. I'm talking about 2018-19 as what Ryan is saying. And that same style is going through now because the Ajax team now is balling again and they're doing well. But I feel like, Ryan, some of these players, like obviously Ziyech that we pulled out, once again, what was the thinking? Because these players, and look at Van der Beek, Frankie de Jong, look at all the names that people are putting over here. Like,
yo, Shingo, don't worry about Frankie, bro. We have too many. Too many. Don't worry about any other CDM, bro. It has too many around. Don't mention anybody else.
These players, when they drift away from the Ajax setup, they can't be the same when they go elsewhere. And I feel like this is the case with Ziyech.
Yeah, I mean, it's so crazy that some talents are kind of victim of the price tag because with De Ligt, massive talent there, but for 90 million to lead Juventus, no. De Jong, I think he will be one of the best midfielders in the world one day, but then again, so young to go and lead Barcelona, one of the biggest clubs in the world, no. Ziyech is different because he is in his prime age. He's a mature player. Expected better from Ziyech, but then again, we need to take into consideration the type of quality opposition in that league is poor compared to all the other 4 leagues, not only Premier League. So yeah, I really like people saying Tagliafico. I'd be really adamant about going for another Ajax player, to be honest.
No.
It could just be another
That's why some
Ziyech.
people, when they talk about Anthony as well, he looks like a very good player. bit weary about these type of players, man. I'm really
Yeah.
weary about them.
Yeah, especially from leagues like that, man. Like, I don't know.
No,
You have any other thing you wanted to talk about? Well, we
no,
missed
man.
because
That's pretty much it. I mean, we can go on and talk about so many other things, but we've gone for 2.5 hours, ladies and gentlemen. That's pretty much it. We're gonna wrap things up over here. Hope you guys have enjoyed this. Please smash the like button, and if you're here for the first time, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Check out Ryan and his socials in the description. Follow him in Twitter. Please make sure you follow him. And I may have a video that may drop later on tonight, UK time. We'll see. I need to go to bed. It's 2:41 a.m. I've not been up this long if it isn't for a match. So I want to go to bed. Ryan, thank you so much for your time. William is saying, what a stream. I mean, hopefully you guys,
yeah,
you know, you got something out of this. We talked about so many different things. Look, at the end of the day, it's what Johnathan said. When you compare last season to where we are right now, it's not a bad look. Did we really think we're going to win the league? Probably not. We probably wanted to be in the mix of things. At the end of the day, let's trust Thomas Tuchel. He's done some madness with some of our players, made them look so good. Let's slowly give him the, players. This January window is very important. Let's slowly get rid of one or two players that are not really necessary anymore and give him the one or two players that can fit into the system seamlessly. So yeah, let's just hang in there. It's not all doom and gloom. We're still third, and hopefully we can somewhat make Man City work for it a little bit if we can. I think that could be the target for this particular season. All right, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, see ya.